even though I don't like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, the CGI for Doc
Whoa,
Ock
whoa,
and
whoa,
all
whoa. We
that
gotta
stuff.
pause on that. We gotta pause on that real quick. You like
That's a
at
whole
all?
topic.
Like at all? What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Panels on Pages podcast. My name is Dalibor Zujovic, and today I am very happy to present the team from Lucky 33 Comics, Alex, Mo, and Josh. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Real good.
I got all the names right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Nailed it. I was actually worried I wasn't going to get your name right, but you said it first. So now we're perfect.
Hey, you know what? It's one of those things that people have always mispronounced my name, so I just have
I'm
taken
sure you're
to
used to it.
pronouncing it first.
My last name is a hard one too, so people don't get it. Are you Polish?
I'm Bosnian, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
it's
are hard.
Slav.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That Slav life.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so I have to say I'm rarely this unprepared because you were super proactive, and I got to give you props for that because I did a video. I said, hey, what do you guys want to ask content creators and comic book creators? And you were like, we want to be on your podcast. I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, man.
So
Listen,
I don't know much about Lucky 33 Comics. Give me the breakdown. Give me the pitch.
Sure, absolutely. So I saw Indie Hype Man, and I was like, listen, we got to be on that podcast because that's who we are. We started a couple years ago. I met Josh through a Facebook group. He had drawn some Power Rangers, and they were really good. And me and my buddy Corey had been writing, stories for years with Mo and a couple other people. And I was like, you know what? Let me reach out to him, see if he could just draw some concept art for some of our characters. We had a blast doing that. And he was like, do you guys have like a script for this? And we were like, boy, howdy do we? And we put like, 10 books worth of scripts in front of him. And he was like, let's start from the beginning. We'll start with one. And, the first script that we had for, the pilot, we ended up breaking into the first two issues of what became the New Luminaries. So we had no idea what we were doing. We had written this to be a movie or a TV show or a comic or who knows. We were just writing it to get it out. And when we met Josh, he was like, here's how to do it. Here's how to break it down. Here's where we should go. He drew the art for it. It came out so good. It was so much fun to do the first one. So we did that. We did another one, number 2. And then we took a break and did something fun called Max Axel and the Wild Circuit, which is like kind of like Wacky Racers, Mario Kart, F-Zero, all smashed together.
I
That was
did have a
so
chance to
much
see that
fun.
video, the little promo video.
Yeah.
That looked great.
Yeah. So that was our first Kickstarter. The, Luminaries 1 we put out, and our friends, we did like a GoFundMe, our friends and family, put in some money so that we could get it, pay Josh and get it printed. And then we did Luminaries 2 all on our own. We did a Kickstarter for Max Axel under Josh's name. And then he had worked on a book called Astronaut High Schooler 1 before he even met us. And during the process of working on Luminaries and stuff, he had shown it to us, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, this is just right. It's right up our alley. It's the same kind of universe that we live in. It's the same kind of characters we make. And I was obsessed with it. One day he came up to us and was like, maybe we should do more with this. And we were like, yeah, we should. So, we joined forces and we started working on Astronaut High Schooler number 2. It was already written, Josh had already written it, and he had been working with another person, Madeline, on it for a couple of years now. So they put a lot of work into it, and we, freshened it up. We did the color flats and stuff for it as a group. Corey helped on the letters, and it was really like a big team project, this one, and it felt really good to do.
That's awesome. Is that what the Kickstarter
Yes.
that's
Yes, that's the
launching
current
now, or is live
Kickstarter.
now?
It's live now.
Live now.
We just funded a couple days ago. We hit our funding goals, so now we're in the stretch goals.
Nice.
We're trying to hit those.
About
We've
to hit
got a
that
lot
first
of fun
stretch goal
stuff.
soon.
Yep. I think we just hit the first stretch goal right before this call.
Yep.
So
Love to
we've got
hear
some
it. Love to
trading
hear
cards
it.
to print, which is cool. Got a couple other things lined up if Josh wants to talk about them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have, like we're gonna keep pushing with the Astronaut High Schooler books. We've got new Luminaries. That we did the 2 issues already. We've got number 3 in the works. Our like Alex was saying, our writing partner Corey has a story called Thieves in the Nest that he's been working on, which is like a kind of like a more of a manga black and white kind of comic. It's gonna be really fun. I cannot believe how many books and stories we have
Yeah.
like in the pipeline.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yep.
I
And
feel
then
that. I feel that exactly. I've got sketchbooks and notebooks from decades now, of just
Awesome.
ideas, stuff that just popped out at any random point, and stuff that, you end up just developing it down the line, and you come up with a new idea and you're like, wait, that could work with this other thing.
Yep, that's what happened with Max Axel. When we
Yep.
first came up with that idea, Josh was drawing cool cars, and he sent us a page of like some cool car designs he drew, just like off the cuff, having fun. And it got our brains working. We started working on it. Me and Corey started talking back and forth. Me and Mo started figuring things out. We started coming up with characters. It was really fun. And then one day, Corey called me and he's like, "Do you remember Max Axel?" To preface, Max Axel was a character that Corey had come up with when we were like kids. And
Actor
it was,
slash alternate persona.
yeah, it was like his alternate persona, it was like
Gotcha.
his cool guy. And for years and years, Max Axel was like a thing, and even as we grew older, we would chat about it every so often, blah, blah, blah. And as we were developing the racing comic, he called me and he was like, I think we need to make the main character Max Axel. And I had literally had the same thought, like the same day. I was going to call him and be like, what if it's Max Axel? So, something that he had come up with that was unrelated. Max Axel was not a car racer, he was just like an idea from back then. And we were like, let's do it. And we like to think here that like ideas are not, we don't come up with them. They're already out there in the universe, and we're just kind of reaching out and pulling them down and putting them together. And like when those moments happen with us, it feels so special. And it really it's like it was supposed to be like that the whole time. We didn't come up with this and develop it, and then all of a sudden it was Max Axel. It was like Max Axel was out there, and we just found him and brought him home. And that feels great.
I'm with you on that. I'm a firm believer in like the universal consciousness.
Yeah.
I personally take credit for like some of the coolest shit that's come out from a lot of like the new season of Dexter that came out. I came up with that 15 years ago. Like at the end of the last season, I was like, you know what we should do? I literally had it on the calendar. Like last year, September, we were gonna sit down and we're gonna film this. And if we can get Yvonne, like we'll bring her in. Like I've got this whole idea. Like we're gonna follow up with the kid, learning that his dad is, the Bayhart Butcher and all this stuff. And then they announced the new season. I was like, all right, you guys are welcome. I don't need to do the hard work. They're doing the hard work now. Okay, cool. I've done my part.
Oh man,
A good portion of the MCU definitely felt like that a little bit. Like, yep, this is what they should have done. I said this years ago with Alex. We just said they just followed the comic books a little bit to keep it kind of comic accurate. They would make millions of dollars. Like, you're welcome, Disney.
Right. That was kind of like the wildest thing, right? Across all of the stuff that we got something that kind of kicked off the superhero era. We got Blade, and Blade was pretty damn accurate to
awesome,
the comics.
yeah.
But then they went like, what made this cool is that he was in black leather and like dark. So we're gonna make the X-Men black leather and dark. And we were like, no, that's not what made it cool. That's not what made it cool.
Not that.
But yeah, because the problem
man.
is like Blade was an accurate comic book movie, but he's not like a typical superhero. So like,
right,
he proved that comic book movies could work, but it wasn't a good test concept for like superhero movies, which we didn't really get until like arguably the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies leading into the MCU and the Nolan Batman movies. But
listen, man, superhero movies like that hinge on the CGI. And the reason why Spider-Man was so good and the reason why Iron Man started it all was because they had the CGI that made it look real enough for us to be able to suspend our disbelief and have fun. And they could do anything. I mean, even though I don't like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, the CGI for Doc Ock.
Whoa. We gotta pause on that. We gotta pause on that real quick.
That's a whole topic.
Like at all?
I like the movies. I do not like Tobey Maguire as Peter
Parker. Oh yeah, no, that's
so
that is like that's like different.
I have a hard time watching those movies because he's my favorite, and I just feel like it's hard to watch. They're great in terms of like CGI and fight scenes. I would say that those are some of my favorite Spider-Man fight scenes. Like I always say, he's a great Spider-Man. He's a terrible Peter Parker. Because like he's just in a mask and he can just do it. He's CGI most of the time that he's Spider-Man. So I'm happy with that. I'm not like an enormous Sam Raimi fan, but I think he did really good with those movies particularly. I wasn't happy with Mom, so like that's why I got like a gripe with him.
Oh,
Everything else he's
I'm
ever
with
done
you
is
on that,
fine,
man. I'm with
but
you on
I
that.
got really
That
mad
had
at
too
that
many
movie.
Raimi-isms.
Yeah,
Way
yeah.
too many.
All I was saying is like
Mhm.
I love Joe Dante, the guy who made Gremlins and Small Soldiers and that kind of stuff. But if he directed Mom and there were like a bunch of little goblins running around, I'm sure a bunch of people would be like, "Come on, Joe, do you have one shtick?" And like
Right.
that was all I was asking is for him to like give the movie a shot, not just turn it into a fucking Sam Raimi movie.
Speaking of Small Soldiers, I always like to shout this out. Have you seen the new like CG, like, I don't want to call it a reboot. It's very much the same concept. It
No.
was done in CG, but it was done so well that it looks like it's stop motion. Like, it was so well done.
Do you know what it's called? Because I'm into
Oh
that.
man, I forgot what it's
If you can
called.
remember, yeah, send me a
Just
link when you figure it out.
I think it's no. So the original was called Small Soldiers, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think this is
Mhm.
called Toy Soldiers because I think it's like
Okay.
not trying to
Clever.
do
Oh, it's like
copyright
kind of
thing.
knockoff.
Yeah,
Those are all honestly my favorite.
and it's like fabulous, fabulous.
Was
Like,
this recent or?
yeah, I mean, like less than 6 months, like 3
Oh,
months.
hella recent. Got ya.
Yeah, super recent. But
Yeah.
I came across it, I think randomly. It was like a recommended on the YouTube homepage, and I was like, "This looks interesting." And
There
it's
is supposed to be a sequel or something. There was that War for the Necron that got released, but I don't think it was like ever like a real thing. Is this what you're
Not
talking
familiar with
about?
it.
The modern day reboot? Let's see.
Exploring.
now we're diving deep. Now we're diving deep.
Doing our
You
research.
gotta realize this is what we do on our meetings. It's so funny. Like half the time we get immediately distracted by some 80s cartoon that we all start looking at.
I feel you on that, dude.
That's really funny.
That's such a deep rabbit hole. There are so many cartoons
Oh
that
my
I
God.
forgot about.
Yeah.
So I watch a channel called Secret Galaxy.
Okay.
Dan, and now I can't remember his damn last name. Anyway, this dude Dan, he does all these like full on retrospectives. They've got like a research team. They go full in, and I like I forget the name of the show, but it was like some teenager kid who transformed into a car.
Oh, I know what you're
I
talking
know
about.
Yeah,
I
see,
think I
like,
do know. Yeah.
So
Oh my God.
like there are some wild shows
That's
from the
crazy.
80s.
Yeah. And a lot of them, it's so funny because they all, either had one season or I'm super into like Super Sentai and Power Rangers and Tokusatsu and stuff. So there's like a ton of that
Oh,
weird
that's a
adjacent
whole
shit.
different.
It's wild.
I knew they were gonna skip the one season because I watched up until Wild Force.
Okay.
And I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I like missed the first few episodes or something, and I got like jumped in a few weeks later, and I was like, wait, why the fuck? Why has everyone got 3 Zords? What? I'm so like I was so lost. I was like, everyone's got 3 Zords. They're hunting for more Zords. Like, what the fuck is this show about? So I was like, I can't fucking do this no more. And then
Yeah.
eventually I caught up all the way to Samurai and Super Samurai, and then I got to fucking Megaforce, and I was like, oh my god, this fucking dialogue. Like
Dude,
the
Megaforce
it's
is
so
rough.
cheesy.
It's rough.
It's like I got like 4 episodes in, and I was like, I fucking can't.
If I didn't love Gokaiger so much, like the Japanese season of that, and I also didn't think that like the Yellow Ranger in that season is probably the best Yellow Ranger they've ever had besides Trini. That season, yeah, it's a rough watch. It's a rough
And
watch.
I was literally
Megaforce
never
and
gonna
Super
watch anything
Megaforce
and like any
are
Power Rangers again until I saw that the second season they had the fucking super collection of all fucking Power. I was like, son of a bitch! Now I gotta watch
so
this.
cool. Super
They got
Megaforce
you.
is like it's also like real cheesy, but oh man, the outfits are awesome. The whole pirate motif fucking rules. Like the stealing of the keys and the switching and pulling morphers, morphers from other
So the one that was
seasons.
right after the Japanese one that was right after the pirate theme one, that was the train theme.
Yeah, Toker.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I was
season.
like, oh, let me, because I always there was a site Ranger Central, and it was like paired with Sentai Central. I would go and see like, oh, well, what's the next Sentai season? I want to see like what the Zords are gonna look like, and I saw the the penis train,
the giant,
and I was
giant
like,
penis train.
they're not gonna bring this over.
No, yeah, we're gonna
What?
start this one.
And it's like, from what I understand, it's like one episode. Like it
Yeah,
only
yeah,
happens
yeah.
once in the whole series.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, they're still not gonna bring this over because, like,
Yeah.
on the off chance some kid researches this, there's gonna be outraged parents. They're just
That
gonna skip
season
this.
was so crazy too because that season makes fun of like Power Rangers in general.
Oh,
Like it's a
really?
very tongue-in-cheek season, but it was also originally, from my understanding, made because trains are very ubiquitous in Japan and train safety is extremely important. So like
Oh,
when
yeah.
they were like, let's try to adapt this, they were like, none of this matters to Americans at all. Like they don't fucking see trains at all. So they're not gonna give a shit about this whole season. What are we doing? So they
Yeah.
just skipped it. Yeah. And I think if I'm not mistaken, that was the first season that they skipped. And then they started going around and just doing whatever the hell that they wanted.
Since oh, I always forget the name of it. But since what turned into MMPR season 2, since they skipped that one,
Yeah.
Die Ranger.
Yeah, Die Ranger, which they eventually did in oh no, they never did Die Ranger, they just did White Ranger.
They
But
did the White
eventually
Ranger, and
did
then I think in
Kaku
Super Mega Force, I think they got the
Oh,
keys.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
at some point
Yep.
somebody had a Die Ranger
Yep.
suit.
The new season I haven't watched yet because I was obsessed watching Castlevania for the last week. But the new season
I
just
finished
came
that.
out, and it's the robots from my favorite Sentai, but none of the costumes, which is the whole
Yeah,
point.
they created new costumes. They created
Yeah.
all new costumes for the American cast. The first time they've done that
Yep.
since Metallics.
Yes. Since the movies, yeah.
Oh, well, since the movies, yeah.
Yeah. And it
But
was it's
wasn't
pretty cool.
Metallics wasn't something in Sentai, was it?
Maybe not.
The sparkly metal costumes.
No, they weren't. No, yeah, definitely not. I had those toys, man. They were so
Right? Shiny Power
yeah,
Rangers.
they were so cool.
It was such a dumb trope back then, but
Yeah.
you loved it. You loved it. You were a kid and you were like, this is awesome.
I ate that stuff up. I had so many Megazords. I was obsessed. I used to go to the store and buy stuff that looked like a Megazord just because
Nice.
I loved it. That's how I got like a bunch of weird Japanese shit. Because I'd be like scrolling through and I'd be like, that's the robot. I have that robot. And then I just go watch the season of the show and I'd be like, this is crazy.
That's awesome.
Go Gaigar. Is that Gao Gaigar? There's this old Japanese show, Gao Gaigar, and I had the fucking Megazord from it. And the other day somebody posted about it, and I was like, now I gotta go watch all of this. I haven't found it yet,
Well,
but
that's something I honestly like to segue a little bit. Like that's what I love about like the way we work with our comics
yeah.
is that basically everything that Alex just explained about like I had this as a kid and whatever, like that is our motivation when we're creating like most of our things. We're like, this guy should have like a helmet, or like this thing should be bigger and like with like 4 arms, and like, and then we pull up like our inspirations and then we just like go from there. It's pretty great.
If you look at our books, you can see miles of inspiration from all of our childhoods. That's like pretty much our motif. We take stuff that we loved from our childhood and we blend it into a blender and it comes out weird and quirky and wacky, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and I like doing
Each
it.
of the
It's
new luminaries are an archetype
Yep.
of a mismatch of inspirations from a certain genre, and then Max Axel is just Mario Kart and F-Zeros meets Rocky Racers, and it's like,
Yep.
That's the one I was thinking of. That's the cartoon, right? Rocky Racers.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's as soon as I saw the little trailer, I was like, that's exactly what it reminds me of. So
Huge
like the wackiness.
inspiration.
Yeah, I was like immediate.
Yeah. The Chameleon Twins are like a direct
yeah,
feed from Wacky Racers to that. And Speed Racer was a huge
Speed Racer
influence
as
on
well.
me growing up. I loved Speed Racer.
Speaking of
I had
Speed
a
Racer,
goldfish
actually,
named Speed Racer. That's how much I loved him.
Nice.
but
So yeah, it was funny because like none of us are like car people. So when we first got the designs for these like wacky cars from Josh, we were like, this is fun. And Corey was like, we should make a car comic. We were all like, should we? And we're like,
Is
"Do we
that a good
have to?"
idea?
Like, are we like we have no authority to make a car comic? And then we're like, no, let's make a silly car comic though. We have tons of authority there.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And that it goes to prove that any genre is accessible if you just come at it from your perspective.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I think
I'm
also
not Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say also, I think part of it was Corey was aiming, we wanted to challenge ourselves and make a shorter script. So we
Yep.
figured with a race, a very like singular start to finish like event that we help us limit ourselves because we get very carried away with backstory and elaborating things. And we figured just like the issue starts, the race starts, the race ends, the issue ends, and like build a little story around that, but not get too into it.
And yeah,
Yeah, I
that was
dig
like,
that. I
yeah.
mean, you can, of course, always extend a race. You know, the Fast and the Furious franchise is notorious for having 3 to 17-minute long 10-second races.
Yeah.
10-second races. I like that.
Oh,
Like,
that's funny.
they're all. I mean, that was like half the script in the first movie was you owe me a 10-second car.
Yeah.
They raced for much longer than 10 seconds every single time.
Looking at his watch, like, I am pretty sure this is way longer than 10
Like, we got dinner plans. Can we?
Can we speed this
Fast
up?
and
I
the
was
Furious
told
is
this
just
movie
live
could be
action
15
anime
seconds
with
long.
cars, and then it makes
Yeah.
a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It
Oh my
Totally
god.
is.
Yeah.
It totally is. I'm here for it. I'm fully here for it. Like from the moment that Dom jumped across a bridge, caught Letty midair, landed on another car on the other side of the bridge, no scratch. I was in.
I'm here to suspend my disbelief.
Well, that's the thing is the more they leaned into it, I think the more I was all right with it because like I think it starts off a little like, is this just like kind of a
It's definitely a little too like real.
It's a
world
little more
serious
grounded
for itself. Yeah.
And then they just really started pushing the envelope, and it's like,
Yeah.
I love it.
I think a lot of people dismiss Tokyo Drift because drift culture here is not as big as it was in Japan and as it is still in Japan. Like it's definitely gotten bigger, but I think it's genuinely gotten bigger because of that movie, because of those movies
only
in general.
Yeah.
But that movie here looked goofy. Like we were like, what's happening right now? Like you're going up the parking lot. Like this doesn't make any sense.
I thought that was so cool, dude.
Right?
I was like,
it was fantastic. But it's like when you got was it Lil Bow Wow? Yeah, it was Lil Bow Wow. With a Hulk car. We're like, what the fuck is this? But that is the Japanese car culture. Like my cousin's a big car guy, so like I see a lot of the stuff. He shows me a lot of stuff, and it's like we think we got like wild, like big whale tails. We call them here, you know, spoilers. The spoilers in Japan are taller than the entire car.
That's the same thing with like Super Sentai and Power Rangers. It's like if you go and watch Super Sentai, even though it's a kid show in Japan, like it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different thing. It's consumed differently. I was like get crazy about the commercial breaks in between. When you're watching Super Sentai in Japan, there's commercial breaks for the toys, and like there's some kind of like call in or text in or internet thing. I obviously don't know it because I don't speak Japanese, but it's like there's ways to win prizes. And like
during the commercial breaks?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
And it's like, and it's really crazy. And they show you what you're gonna win, and then like they announce the winners or something, and I'm like, I want that. I want that as a kid. Like I want to be a kid in Japan.
Yeah, but can you imagine if they had done that early 2000s? The like phone minutes and text messages that would have ggot the overage fees in the early 2000s would have been out the roof.
Our parents already had to threaten me to not order all of those like nature botanical books and like kid books for like the coloring, like the nature books and stuff. Like I couldn't even like call in for those, much less Power Ranger contests.
Right.
I wanted to win with the Toys R Us sweepstakes. That's all I wanted to win as a kid.
Oh my god, Toys R Us. Toys R Us, man.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. for real.
There's one
KB Toys. Remember that?
KB was cool. KB was really cool. KB
I actually do agree that KB was cooler because KB always had Spawn toys.
Yeah,
Toys R Us
always had like
on and off would not have that.
Yeah, KB always had like the one set of stuff. Like they had like Sonic toys and Mario toys back then. There's like Toys R Us wouldn't have that stuff.
I feel like I got a lot of Gundams from KB Toys.
Yeah,
they had Gundams and Street Fighter.
That was the thing. They had like a section of Japanese stuff, so you could get like those Mega Man model kits and stuff there. They were really cool.
I'm just getting into modeling. I accidentally ordered.
I'm sorry.
Stupid.
Sorry for
I accidentally ordered a model of Optimus Prime. To my defense, they showed an alt mode. And in my head, up until that point, models can't transform. Like you make the model, it is what it is. The model can't transform.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it's got a robot mode and it's got a car mode. This is obviously a regular transformer. And I got it and I opened the box. First of all, it was like half the size of the box I thought it was going to be. And when I opened it, it's just like, I pull out and it's all the stuff on pegs or whatever. I was like, this is a legit model kit. Okay. But I had I had a good time making it. So I was like, well, now I want to try it out. And an attempt to spend $60 on a cool model turned into spending $150 on 3.
Oof.
That sounds about right.
I gotta put my son to...
Okay.
Now I'm standing in front of the same black hole. I was in the mall last week and small bios, I guess, this new collectible shop that I've never seen open up there, and I stuck my head in it. They had a whole model section. I had a couple Gundam models as a kid, like not the series glue models, like they just the peg models, whatever. And I was just looking at the Gundam models and all the Dragon Ball Z models they had. I was like, do I want to buy a model kit again? I was like, no,
dude,
don't do it.
They've figured out who has the money. Like, I remember when we were kids. I mean, Mo, I feel like you're probably younger than me, like significantly. I'm about to hit 40.
I'm older than I look. Okay, I'm 35, so.
Okay. So we're right there. When we were kids, our toys were pretty good for like our age level. Like we had pretty good fucking toys. And they have gone on, like old school Transformers are still pretty decent.
Yeah.
Now kids are getting garbage. Like Hasbro and all these companies have figured out, like, oh, the old people now want the coolest toys. So the most decent Optimus Prime you can get on the shelf was $55. Everything under that, garbage. Like no freestanding hands, like it's part of the door. I'm like, what the fuck? Like this is like a 2 to 3 grade.
It depends by franchise. I definitely seen some stuff looking for toys for Alex's kids. I'm like, damn, that's cool. Like some of the Nerf guns now and that kind of stuff. Like,
oh, Nerf is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, kids definitely got some cool shit. But depending on the franchise, they definitely know who to market what towards. And like, like anything that's like that was popular in the 80s and the 90s. Now, if there's a kid version of it now, toys they don't care.
Yeah,
a lot of kids.
I feel like they dumb down the shows so they can sell cheaper, dumbed down toys. Because like even the Transformers on the like the latest show, or like Earthspark or whatever it's called, they kind of look goofy. They kind of look too cartoony. And I was like, I'm a big fan of Transformers. And the first time I saw that artwork, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this.
I feel like the Transformers. I feel like they had a hard time with that franchise outside of our generation forever. Like I feel like once Beast Wars in the early 2000s was done, and like they had to try to figure out what to do after that for the next gen of kids. They just been stumbling since then. Everything else has been good. It's just been good because it panders to the G1 and to our Transformers.
Yeah.
I will die on this hill. We should have gotten Transtech. That was supposed to be the follow-up to Beast Machines. It was supposed to be the next stage. Everyone's like mixed organic and robotic. And I remember seeing the like sketches and the prototypes that they had made, and I was like, oh shit, this looks so awesome. And then they're like, robots in disguise, and I was like, what is this garbage?
And that didn't last long either. I don't think Robots in Disguise.
No, I think that only ran one season, that first RID.
Yeah,
and it was so, I think it was so universally hated, honestly, because they have replaced it. They have just made a whole new show called Robots in Disguise. So now RID means the newer one.
Only the new one. Damn, they buried it.
Yeah, they're like, nah, never again.
Google
like
search results.
All of the other stuff, they're like, here's 13 repaints of Gen 1. I mean, 13, probably 300 repaints of Gen 1 Optimus Prime. But it's like an RID Optimus Prime, stupid fucking fire truck Optimus Prime, like $250 because they only made one repaint ever.
We have an Optimus reference in Luminaries too.
Oh yeah, there's a straight up like the characters are on a motorcycle and they almost run into Optimus Prime driving down the street. Like
nice.
It's not subtle at all.
So okay, well that brings up an interesting question. So I mean, obviously not a subtle call out. How do you feel about references across like especially not your own work?
Yeah.
Like just obvious like pop culture. the reason I asked, there is a line I wrote in my novella that flat out calls to like popular, well-known fictional magicians.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was like, you know, John Constantine, Jericho fucking drum magic. Like, that's the line. And it's like that. I want to emphasize, like, that is the level of magic we're talking
Yeah,
about.
right.
And it's like, I know people who know will know. And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you think there is a line that can be crossed there when making such a call out or such a reference?
I think it depends on how much you're leaning on the reference for the purpose of like your story. Like for us, we don't really do a ton of that, but the ones that we have done, like Optimus Prime, like it's just them driving through a busy street and they swerve through a truck. Like the truck has no actual input in the plot. It doesn't transform into a robot. It's just like we had an 18 reel and we're like, this is a good time to like do a call out to Optimus Prime because we love Optimus Prime. That's our demographic. Anyone who recognizes that would appreciate that call out.
Yep.
There's a similar thing in Astronaut High School 2 with Josh to background characters that we colored as references to Dale and Velma, just because from the back they kind of had a silhouette of those characters. But like again, we don't see them from the front. They don't talk. No, they're like Dale's not like, chain smoking a cigarette. Velma's not looking for clues. They're not like actually interacting with the plot. And I think that level of reference will always be okay. But I think the moment you start to hinge too much on your reference, especially if it's not your, obviously if it's not your own IP, that's when it gets very sketchy because it's like, you don't want to be doing a superhero thing and have clearly Batman show up and solve your mystery or something like that. Like, no, I mean, like,
well, that's
like, man, how do I fix this? Well, what if Batman shows up and he just gives me the answer?
The whole like, it's funny that you said that, Mo, because like from my perspective, that's kind of what we do. Is like, in my mind, everything is a reference. Like every single thing in these books is informed from something else, and the point is that I'm hoping that one person somewhere gets each of the references. Like I know there's not going to be another person who has the same pop culture book that I have and will get every single thing that I throw in there. But I know that like there will be people who will pick up on one. Like, for example, there's one shot of Hageshi walking towards Charlie, and it is a JoJo frame. Like it is a frame from JoJo, and we took it on purpose. And like I wanted to do that as a reference because I love JoJo and I love the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and I love all the like ridiculousness of that. So I was like, I love this panel. I want to reference it. Like, I think Quentin Tarantino is a great director, and I think what makes him a great director is that he honors and respects the people that he steals from, and it's he's not stealing from them because he wants to do what they did. He's stealing from them because he respects what they did and he knows that's the right way to do it. And I think like
definitely
certain things call for that. And like the line that you wrote, I think that's like a perfect example of the kind of stuff we would do. Like we want you to visually make those connections in your heart. One of our characters in Max Axel is an anthropomorphic shark. He's like a big shark dude and he drives a boat. And I loved Street Sharks as a kid. I wasn't going to make,
Please tell me there's a line that says Jawsome.
No. That was the thing. Is like I wasn't going to make, lines to him, but if you know Street Sharks and you look at this character, I obviously watched Street Sharks when I was a kid. And it's that kind of stuff. When Speedhawk is literally just Mega Man with a couple extra pieces from what's it called? Voltron. And like I want people to look at our stuff and feel the nostalgia, but notice that it's original and different. The main, one of the main characters in the new Luminaries, Ezra, when we were coming up with his costume, originally he was like wearing a lab coat. He was supposed to be like a scientist. And we decided to change it. We came up with a bunch of different ideas. And I said to Josh, I want the top half of him to look like Castlevania. I want the bottom half of him to look like Mega Man EXE. And Josh was like, got you. And he's wearing like, an ascot and like a button down with a cross, breasted shirt and tails. And then he's got these big chunky kind of superhero video game boots. He's got these big gauntlets on his arms. Nailed it. Looks exact. And again, like I said earlier, that's the way Ezra has always looked. We just didn't know it yet. That's how he was
Exactly.
supposed to always look.
Got
We
you.
just
Yeah,
hadn't figured it out.
But I think to the point, Alex, he was talking more about like direct references. So not like
Oh yeah, I
so
mean,
not like as we're being spied by Castlevania, but like if Simon Belmont literally showed up and like whipped a vampire's head
yeah,
and
yeah,
helped
yeah,
us
yeah.
out, like
I mean, that stuff always love the. I love the theory of indie comic books where it's like, what can we that's like in popular culture, like Cthulhu and Red Riding Hood and like all that stuff. And like, let's put this the character in this universe. Like, I think that's really fun, but it's not stuff that we would do because we could just take those things and make our own versions of them. And that's always like more fun to me than like Frankenstein is like a different kind of monster, or instead of a mummy, a different kind of monster. And like that's where our brain always goes. It's like, all right, I like these things, but let's take a couple disparate ideas and smush them together instead of just taking that idea and
exactly.
running
Like,
with it.
we don't do a lot of straight cameos because we rather just use it as inspiration to come up with something that has our unique stamp on
Yeah,
it.
I actually think that the truck is the closest we ever got to like a direct reference.
It is that that's it. And then
Most,
the upcoming little two people in the crowd that I kind of
yeah,
colored to be
yeah,
like
yeah.
Dalen. Those are the only two we do get like direct referencing with because
Yeah. I
like
mean, the truck is like dead. It's so
it's
funny because
There is no
every
Autobot symbol though. That's the important thing.
like, holy shit, that's
it is
Optimus
just a
Prime. I'm like,
truck
it's
that
not
just so
even that
happens to have the
big.
exact same
Like,
color
it's not.
scheme as Optimus Prime.
Mhm.
Look, the way I see it, if it's a red Mack truck, flat nose, it's probably Optimus.
Yeah, it's got to be him. He's cruising, man.
Like I have driven by. I mean, since the movie, since the live action movies came out, the Peterbilt has kind of been there, but people have painted their Peterbilt truck to look like that. And I'll drive by a Peterbilt, and I'm like, "What's up, Optimus?" I just go on about my day.
So awesome.
True.
I like the notion of it because there's always like an interesting thing to like kind of wink at the audience and wink at the reader of, hey, we get it too. Like we're part of the same culture. We're part of the same like space because there was I want to say this was a Spawn. I want to say this was a Spawn issue, and it was like a interview or something. They were interviewing the cops, and flat out, Peter Parker and Ben Urich were there, and it was like name tag said
Yeah.
P Par, and it was like cut off by his shirt, and he was he had a camera on him, and Urich same glasses, like had his notepad,
Yeah.
and I was like, these like everyone knows, like the people who read Spider-Man, who watch Spider-Man, they know who these characters are. So
Yeah.
like that, I like that notion of it. The first time I ever came across it outside of straight up comics and like referring to other comics was I read a book called The Number of the Beast by Heinlein, and there are the two main characters are Dee Dee and Zeb. I believe he goes by Zeb. You go through like a few chapters and they're clearly getting romantic or whatever, and her dad's like along for this journey, and he's like, oh, you two seem to be getting along. When you get married? And they start laughing, and they're like, actually, we have been married for like 100 years. And I'm like, I'm reading for the first time. I think this is one of the first novels I ever read like outside of comics, and I was like, I don't get it. And she's like, oh, well, it turns out that his name is John Zebediah Carter, and her name is Deja Torres Burrows. And I was like, I still don't get it. Because I didn't, so I had to Google, and I'm like, oh shit, that's like John Carter, Warlord of Mars, and the Deja Torres of Mars. Like, and Burroughs is the last name of the guy who wrote them. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like, the depths of, like, oh, I named my characters after the writer, like, after like a contemporary.
Yeah.
And then also named characters after his characters. So it was just like the gag was so well crafted and long tail. It didn't have anything to do with the story in the book. It didn't, like, it was just like, he named these characters that for this one-off gag, and I can appreciate that. Like, I can appreciate that long tail of it.
Of course,
That's
and
fun.
even when it does interact with the story up to a certain point, like as long as like if you veer off it, because I'm thinking about the Ninja Turtles now and how their whole
Right.
origin is hidden in Daredevil's origin,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like it's only if you know who Daredevil is, and if you don't, and you just read it, and it's just like, oh, that's just the ooze just came off the back of a truck
Yeah,
and fell
exactly.
into the sewer, and it's just like if you keep it to that level, it's always okay because then it's a wink, wink, nod to your audience. But like
Yeah.
again, Daredevil doesn't interact with them. He doesn't like go on missions with them. Like you don't lean into it to the point where you profit off of it. It's just
Yeah.
like something in the background, the Peter Parker reference, like that thing. I think that's always acceptable because you want to be able to relate to your audience on any level you possibly can, and like a quick little reference, not like, hey, we like the same shit you like, always goes a long way. So
Definitely, yeah.
How insane is it that they've never done a Turtles Daredevil crossover?
I still
crazy.
can't believe
Like,
that.
It's really
it's easy
crazy.
money.
Yeah,
I'd buy that
especially
shit.
Foot, the
like
Don't even buy
hand,
Teenage
like
Mutant Ninja Turtles comics.
like Ninja Turtles at this point, Corey would kill me if I said this, but is definitely more popular than Daredevil.
I think he would agree.
Wow.
I think he
I
would
mean, he's
agree.
probably
If you're
right.
talking the mainstream, hell yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
Yeah,
mean,
mean,
yeah.
if I show
most
Daredevil to my
definitely.
son, he might know who he is. If I show the Ninja Turtles to him, he's fucking gonna know who
You're
they
gonna
You're
are.
know who
right.
the
Well, it's
TMNT are.
because of the broad cultural appeal. I
Yeah.
mean, they went full marketing.
Funny enough, this takes us to like another one of our philosophy points here at Lucky 33. Look at Daredevil and look at Ninja Turtles. The difference is that Ninja Turtles, even though when it first came out was like violent and black and white and kind of dark, it's about turtles. Kids could get behind that shit.
Yep.
Here at Lucky 33, all of our stuff is like we try to make it as fun and child like available as possible. We don't make it for kids, but we make it so that like if you're reading one and your kid comes over, you can read it to them. And like there's nothing in it that they wouldn't be able to absorb. And that's really important for stuff like the Ninja Turtles. That's really important for stuff like Transformers, like
Right.
Power Rangers. Like all of that stuff is accessible to such a large audience because it doesn't alienate the younger audience. And like I have two kids of my own, and when we were coming up with this stuff, we had no idea where to take it. We didn't know what our style would be yet. So there were moments where we were, people were dying or things were getting violent and blah blah blah. And I was thinking like, am I going to be able to, when this is done, could I read this to my kid? And I wanted to be able to do that. And I also wanted, my friends who also have kids and stuff to do the same. So all of our books, we try to have this like whimsy to it, like not like Disney, not like child, focused, but I was, I'm very nostalgic and I'm all like, I haven't grown up yet really. So like, I try to make my stories like light and fun and goofy and silly and tongue in cheek, uh, because it's like, it's an open market, it's a lot of people who you would shut out if you're doing kind of like serious stuff or horror stuff or that kind of stuff.
I mean, the easy comparison I could make for like on like a movie level is like the MCU versus DCU. Like
Yeah, yeah,
we're just a
definitely.
slightly more cartoonish version of the MCU. Not
Yep,
children's stories, but
yep,
stories that everyone could have, not super grim dark, not super up our own selves or with it. We're just like, we're just having fun. Like, yes, there's stakes and there are things that are dangerous and characters will go through things and they'll be sad and all that kind of stuff. But like it's always presented in a way where like Avatar: The Last Airbender, in a way that
yep,
everybody can,
yep,
appreciate it.
yep.
Because there's no reason to
That's a huge element of it, man. I've definitely said that there needs to be something that we need to hit all stages of that, right? There are already like mass market comics that are made for kids, like
Yeah,
Captain Underpants, all that stuff like that.
Power Pack
Scholastic
and
has
yeah,
that whole bag.
yeah,
They've got the whole bag. Like no one can even get any of that bag.
yeah,
So someone needs to have that next step. They need to have that like middle grade era where it's like it's just accessible enough, but still also fun, but still also something that'll keep them going and keep them interested in the medium. Because
right.
it's like if you look, I mean, like right now, I think as much as I love X-Men, and I do love X-Men, I'm all-time ride or die for X-Men. It could be the shittiest era of X-Men. I'm gonna still read it because that's just who I am. But it's like that's not really accessible anymore.
Yeah,
That is it's either dealing with themes or situations that are entire, like it's well beyond kids.
yep.
Like, but I go back to, the 90s, they didn't say bitch in the 90s.
Right.
Now they say bitch.
Yeah.
It's kind of like radio. Back in the day, you didn't hear bitch on the radio. Now
Yeah.
you do.
Now you do.
Most kids
yeah.
don't listen to radio no more.
And that's a
Yeah.
great
Right.
point. I mean, when I was in college is when Civil War was coming out. And that was like, I was like, holy shit, they're taking themselves seriously.
Yeah.
Like, this is like real people doing real stuff. It looks real, it feels real, they're acting real, like everyone's like a real person. This is great. And I think that was a big push for why the movies did so well, because like they finally were able to be like, all right, let's write stories and really give it our all, not make the dialogue comic book dialogue, not make the stories like the thought bubble. Like we're gonna try to write a story, and things like bad things are gonna happen, and like kids are gonna die, and it's gonna be like dark and serious, and everyone's gonna be mad at each other the whole time. And like I think that set off a wave. I mean, you look at The Boys, you look at like all that other stuff that
Can we not look at The
gritty
Boys?
Invincible, gritty superhero, like hyper realistic, that kind of stuff. Ultra violent takes on nihilistic superheroes.
Well, the funny thing about that is I feel like that comes in waves because like that happened at the
Yeah.
end of the 80s into the 90s when Frank
Yeah.
Miller did The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, and everyone was like, whoa, we should just do that.
Frank Miller needs to retire. That's
I
my
still can't believe he's still doing
that's my
shit.
hard
that is-
stance on that.
I'm not going to
Holy
disagree with
shit.
that.
But
then-
listen, we can ask you a silly ass question, and I'm gonna answer first to give you the level of
cool.
seriousness I'm with on this. If you could go back and just snap your hands, I definitely clapped my hands and said snap. Don't worry about that. If you could just snap your fingers and say this story or this
I got
event
this. Yeah.
from comic book history
Yeah.
never happened,
Yeah.
what would it be? For me, Dark Knight Returns. I think he
Okay,
fucking soiled
bold take.
Batman.
Dude, honestly, I am with you. And everyone thinks I'm fucking crazy because my favorite Batman is Goofy Gadget Batman. Like, I like old Batman. I think that character would be so fucking fresh if they made a movie where it was like Adam West style and it was like really fun.
Have you been reading recent Batman books?
No, is it like that?
Bro, there isn't. So Bruce Wayne was shunted across realities. There's a lot of backstories to that.
Sure.
He ends up interacting with variant, like all like cinematic movie Batmans, and he meets up with Adam West Batman, and he had lost his belt.
Yeah.
And Adam West Batman is like, here, every Batman needs a utility belt. And in the next reality he gets it like attacked by a shark. And the like thought bubble says, I finally met the one Batman who is more prepared than me. And he whips out the bat shark repellent. And I was like, that's the shit. That is the
I've
shit
seen
right
that.
there.
That's
what I'm
amazing.
talking about, man. That's the type, and I bet people fucking loved that because for 5 minutes, Batman didn't have to take himself seriously, and I bet that felt so fucking good.
That's why people love Lego Batman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
Yeah.
self-referential and makes fun of it. I mean, that is something I do love about Lego Batman is the amount of like dark brooding Batman it makes fun of.
Yeah.
Like that is pretty great because I would say like the Frank Miller Batman stuff like really brought that dark brooding Batman, like among other, like honestly, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the Killing Joke. Like,
yeah, me either.
It's an interesting like one-shot story, but like I feel like it's revered as this amazing story, and it is just like so short and so simple, and like it's like even when they made the animated movie for it, they like had to make it longer and like came up with an entire extra arc. Like
that was terrible.
Yeah, just
extra arc was.
Well, and it just proves the point that
it was a callback to a pretty much, from what I understand, a universally hated thing from Batman Beyond, where you find out that him and Barbara had a thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's like
Bruce Tim has an uncomfortable thing with Barbara.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I did like the finale though of Batman Beyond, which was an episode of Justice League where you find out that he's like a clone baby of Bruce Wayne, and I was like, yeah, I'm with that.
Yeah.
I'm with that.
But Terry's
definitely.
a clone baby.
Terry's a clone baby. By the way, who do you think did it? Look, you get one guess. Who is the most
Amanda
dangerous
Waller.
person? Of course, it was Amanda Waller.
I love that
I'm-
you do that. Like,
I'm not even that big of a DC guy. I knew the answer to that. Just because like
Fucking Amanda
she's did Nick
Waller.
Fury, so who else
Yeah.
would do it?
Bro, no, I think she would whoop Nick Fury's ass.
I
I
mean,
like Nick
yes.
Fury. She'd
Yeah.
she'd have him killed before he was awake.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
So that brings Nick Fury brings me to I got two answers for your question. What should disappear and never
Okay.
come back. One More Day by Spider-Man, but that's an easy fucking
Yeah,
say.
one more
Given,
day sucks.
given.
Really easy. It's a given. So I'm gonna say Who Killed the Watcher? I really liked that story as I was reading it, and I got to the end and I was so mad. I don't know, I don't want to ruin it for you, but like
It just ended up being Fury, right?
yeah. It was just Nick Fury, and the whole rationale is Nick Fury had to do all the dirty work that the superheroes wouldn't for like all of history. So he also killed JFK and all this other stupid shit. And it
Yeah,
was
the
just
man, the
like
man on the wall thing was very interesting. Like,
so
I did
dumb.
not read that.
So dumb, and I was enthralled by this book when I
but
was
Original
reading.
Sin, yeah, I mean, like the setup for sure.
Yeah,
The setup for sure was very
tore
interesting.
through
I
him.
think Original Sin had the same flaw that Fear itself did, which was
Okay.
it had a very interesting setup,
Yeah,
but the finale was just meh.
yeah,
It was like, oh, the world serpent is coming back. This is the end of Thor. It's gonna be like he's gotta die to set, and it was just like 7 panels.
yeah.
The
That's why I
whole
don't do
fight
that
was
shit.
7 panels. I was like,
That-
what the fuck did I just read?
That's why we don't do that shit in our books. We do not put like those. You know, when we were, I think. So this goes back to why we're making comics in the first place, and what you said earlier about X-Men, how they have so much. And I think what indie comics benefits from right now is if you want to get into Marvel, or if you want to get into DC, or you want to read comic books, you can get like Marvel Unlimited and spend your whole fucking life pouring through these books, or you can just like buy a couple indie books and see all these different universes and all this different shit. And like all these people have enough books now where like they're starting to put together a universe. They're starting to put together multiple characters showing up in each other's books. And like you
Right.
can get what you want from Marvel and stuff. And a lot of these indie books, like what we tried to do was like we set the universe up and now we're just playing out a little story in the universe. So there's this whole larger world with all these superheroes and the superhero teams and all this other stuff going on, but we're only showing you like a little bit of it. So stuff comes in and out of that. And like that's how we're going to slowly expand the story, introduce more characters. But like, Marvel is a living, breathing world. And if you've got 3 books, you can't compete with that. So you've got to come up with a special way to have a living, breathing world without all these books and 50 to 100 years
Honestly,
of plans.
I think related to that, and also going back to your point about how like just for the kids, some of the Marvel stuff are starting to get kind of aged out. I think Western comics need an equivalent to Shonen Jump
Yeah.
and Shonen kind of manga, like manga that is aimed at like 12 to 15-year-old kids, like with life affirming messages that have like, they go on for a few years, but they have definitive endings to them that like then you can go back and just collect in volumes and that kind of stuff. I feel like there's a certain reason why people are gravitating towards manga now more than Western comics. And like there's a bunch of like, basement dwelling people online who's like, oh, it's because Western comics are too woke, blah, blah, blah. That's not it. I think the real reason is just because mangas are just easy to get into because like even
It's simpler.
It's simpler, and like outside of something like a One Piece or whatever, most of them are a couple hundred volumes and they're done. Like that's the equivalent of maybe a decade of X-Men issues, you know what I'm saying? To get the entire start to finish story. Like that's so much easier than ass and telling a kid, oh, you want to get into X-Men? But they've issues since the 60s and all that history is relevant. So either read Wikipedia for a couple of days and just pick an arc to start at, or read thousands and thousands of issues. Like no one's gonna go back and read all of that. Like even when I got into comics, like my X-Men journey started with the cartoon show, and then I wanted to read the comic books. Wikipedia was a thing, and I just pretty much spoiled myself on like 2 decades of X-Men stories, just blitzing through Wikipedia stuff so I can start reading what was coming out currently. because I wasn't gonna go back and read everything from the 60s and 70s when I was in high school. Like I didn't have access to that, especially before Marvel Unlimited. And it was just like, but if I wanted to read Dragon Ball Z, that's 200 volumes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and you're done. That's the whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
I think Western comics can benefit from something like what Shonen Jump has.
And we're starting to we have our next two books that are our next two projects that are coming out, Thieves in the Nest and Bubble Pop and the Wonder Witches, are both going to be on Webtoon. So we're releasing them first as Webtoon, and then we're going to try to collect them and print them. So this is our first foray into digital only and this kind of like new world of comics. But I personally think that it's the future. It's how a lot of people are consuming media. It's different to make, so that's like interesting. And what we're learning is that it's easier to make a web comic and then put it into a book than it is to make a book and turn it into a web comic.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out how to, digitize our old stuff and put it on there. We'll always still print books. We'll always still go to Comic Cons and shows and stuff. And like, hopefully if people like our webtoons and stuff and they like our digital stuff and we get enough views on them and we get, money from that, we can use that to print books and make more stuff and, build out from there. But the Bubble Pop webtoon is like, so what we do with our stories too is we try to connect them all. So all of this is based on the Luminaries universe, which is our main actual like physical universe. It's where most of the characters live for real.
Sure.
Max Axel is a video game that is in the Luminaries universe. So if you were
Oh,
a
okay.
character in the Luminaries universe, you went to a GameStop, you could buy Max Axel, the various versions of Max Axel from a GameStop. The book that we have is just like the GameCube version of it. So our other books, all the books that aren't in the main universe, somehow connect to the universe either as a fictional story or through some other means. And Bubble Pop is a cartoon show that takes place in the Luminaries universe. Our main character of the book, her name is Marissa. When she was a teenager, she was a sidekick for the Luminaries, who are the Avengers, the Justice League of this world. She was basically Batman's sidekick. His name is the Serpent, and he's like a snake themed dude. So eventually she quits because she's a teenager and all they want her to do is like show up at malls and stuff. And she wants to like save the world. And they're like, no, you can't do that. You're going to get hurt. So she's like, fine, I quit. And a bunch of years go by. And one day the Serpent, not in costume, shows up to her house and is like, something's going on with the Luminaries. They will not tell me anything. And I'm getting suspicious of them and I don't trust them and yada yada. And she's like, what do you want me to do? And she's like, when you were my sidekick, you were really good at this and you're not involved at all. So I need you to figure out what's going on. And she's like, I don't really want to do that. And then the power goes out. And when the power comes back on, in the Serpent's place is a giant metal bird who attacks her. And a bunch of stuff happens. The bird escapes. She ends up meeting her next door neighbor, who is kind of a lunatic, and they go to figure out what's happening. Simultaneously, you're at a museum, and the museum is getting attacked by this flying pirate ship. And one of the guards in the museum is trying to stop the people from attacking. And he gets thrown into like a glass case and grabs the sword, and it's a magic sword. And now he's bound to it, and it can shoot lasers and all this other stuff. So he deflects a laser from one of these pirates, and it goes through a window and smashes into the import shop of this dude across the street, who turns out to be an ex Super Sentai character. And he puts on his morpher and blows up and finds him, joins the fight. So the first issue is these four characters kind of all coming together randomly in this one night of chaos. The whole story is that all of the luminaries disappear when those lights go off, and they're replaced by their arch nemesis. And so Marissa and this new ragtag group of goofy people has to figure out what happened to the luminaries, where'd they go, and how to get them back. So it's kind of like a mystery almost. And it's also like a road trip because they go to the Luminary Castle, which is, in upstate New York, where they're in Brooklyn, essentially. And so it's a story about people meeting. It's a story about superheroes. It's about friendship. It's about overcoming obstacles. And it's a mystery trying to solve what happened to this big group of heroes. So Bubble Pop is a cartoon that is a show in this world, because when she quit her job as a teenager, her name was Bubble Pop. When she quit, they kept the rights, and then they just made this cartoon. So none of the stuff that happens in Bubble Pop is actually real. It's just like a cartoon version of this woman's real life, which
Oh, that's
doesn't actually happen.
hilarious.
Yeah, so all the characters in that are imaginary. Some of them are like, villains from the real world, but just cartoonified. But the intro of each of those webtoons is the four new luminaries sitting around watching the TV show, and one of them saying something like, "Is that you? Is that supposed to be you?" So it's all of the stories take place kind of like within this one universe, but they're also like Thieves in the Nest is like an anime or a manga that you could read if you lived in the luminaries. And all of
Gotcha.
those things are like fictional. So our world isn't like one big universe where everyone lives together. It's like one universe where a lot of the stories take place fictionally.
I see. I dig that. I like the architecture of that because
Yeah.
it's kind of it's what I think is missing from the Star Wars universe. Like the Star Wars universe has really focused down on this one lineage,
Yes.
at least in the live action stuff. And I'm like, let's get the story of that kid at the end of Last Jedi who just like
Yeah.
uses his connection to the Force to like get the broom to him.
Yeah.
Like, let's get a story about regular people and regular lives inside of the Star Wars universe.
Dude,
Like
that's why I
outside of
loved
that, like
the anime stuff, the first season of Vision so much, because it
I
was
really,
like
I think that's
so
genuinely going
fresh.
to be the only thing I'm going to keep watching from Star Wars. I
I
figured
agree.
out that I am not a Star Wars fan. Like
Yeah.
I watched Boba Fett, and I
Mhm.
was like, that's fine. And then Kenobi was coming out, and I was like, I don't really care. Like
Yeah.
I don't have this drive to watch it.
I didn't watch Kenobi, and I watched like the first two episodes of Ahsoka. My manager at work was like, he's a super fucking Star Wars dude, and he was telling me, "Oh, like I gotta watch Ahsoka," but I don't watch Rebels or Clone Wars, so like it just
So
doesn't
you don't have that
fucking
connection.
mean anything to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So I mean,
it's kind of frustrating, but I really, well, the fact that Disney owns it, I think it's really coming from a stem. Like Visions is a bit of an anomaly, but like it feels like if they don't have recognizable characters in it, they don't want to make it because it's like,
yeah,
well, I know that's not entirely true, but that's what it feels like
yeah,
because
yeah,
it just
yeah,
feels like they gotta have the recognizable character to market it, and that's it.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, I felt out of the newest crop of films, the the best one in my opinion, like as especially as somebody who's kind of like loosely interested in the property, Rogue One.
Yeah. I loved
I
Rogue
think
One.
Rogue
It
One was a
was really
solid
great.
flick. It was like a solid war flick.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, you
yeah,
saw like you had a taste of Vader and like, oh, okay, cool, Vader's a badass.
yeah,
And
yeah,
at the
yeah.
end, you get that like little shot of CG
That was like
Leia,
all
like
you needed, though. Like that's the
yeah,
kind of
yeah. It's
stuff
like,
that
oh, this
you're.
takes
Yeah,
place in the same universe. That's it.
yeah,
That's all.
yeah.
That's why like I actually really enjoyed even the first couple seasons of Agents of Shield because it's
Oh
like
man, talk to Mo
I
about
didn't
that.
need like Iron Man to show up.
Yeah.
Like you give me like the third tier Asgardian to show up. That's all I need to show that it takes place in the same world. I don't need it to be, Captain America himself to walk in. But it's like,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, like I think season 4 or something, Coulson gets like a holographic shield and it looks like Cap's shield at first.
Yeah,
And I was like,
it's the
that's
Hollow
awesome.
Shield.
Like that's awesome. That's cool. That to me automatically just
All I need. Yeah.
reconnects it back. And I'm like, yep, we're still in the same place.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Like it
Ghost Rider
doesn't
stuff is
matter to
really
me.
cool
Like I like
too.
seeing the broad diversity of the universe. That's why I really liked Blue Beetle. Like Blue Beetle was an incredible film.
Oh, did you? I didn't see it yet.
I
It's
don't
good.
watch it
Dude,
either.
I genuinely, and I loved Steel. That's a
Man
little
of
joke.
I was gonna say, damn.
I think it's my favorite DC movie ever. I think
I
it's
can
my
get
absolute
behind
favorite
that.
DC movie ever.
I can
Wow.
get
It
behind
was
that. I
so
like that.
fun. It had, like you said, it had those like life affirming messages. It had that like it was simple, but it's still like it had enough complexity that like as an adult I still
Yeah.
enjoyed the like richness of the story. But it was
Yeah.
still very much a simple like this dude's just trying to protect his family. Like that's all it boils down to. This dude is trying to protect his family. He learns how to take responsibility. He learns how to be a hero. Boom. That's it. That's the whole story. Like
Sounds good.
it doesn't need to be deep. It doesn't need to be
Yeah.
complicated. That we don't need ancient gods who forgot their map quest apparently directions.
Oof. Too
Like
true.
it was just like I really liked it. That's why I liked the
Yeah.
first and to a point the second Shazam. Like the both
Yeah.
did kind of like a
They're
this is just a
fun.
dude trying to
They're
be a hero. And I think
fun
in the second
movies,
one,
yeah.
I think the problem in the second one was that Zachary was doing the same thing that his character was doing. He was
Yeah.
trying too hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, like, you know, it's funny. Like I'm seeing the story, but you're also doing it. You're also doing the thing. And I'm like, you're messing it up, bro.
That's funny.
No, but I
I
do
think-
agree. Like the first Shazam was really like, I don't know, it's boiled down. Like the fact that the main like big battle at the end was at like a carnival. Like
Yeah.
it's
I mean, look at
love
the
it.
difference between the first Shazam alone and Black Adam. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of those movies did not force itself to take itself so seriously. Like one of those movies allowed at least one person in that movie to have a little bit of fun. And as a result, it did not suffer. Black Adam was so like fucking plain. Like it just every moment that they could have made a fun decision, they made the boring decision.
Black Adam spent like a concerningly long amount of screen time trying to convince you that somebody on screen was funny.
Why?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
why did we just do this door joke? Like it was like I kept like the amount of times I looked back at my wife and said goofy, like that's I've never said that about any comic book movie. And I've seen some goofy ass comic book movies. But like mid movie, I'm like, goofy? What the fuck is happening right now? Like, oh, don't you have doors? Like, of course we have doors. This is not a joke. This is not a funny joke.
Not a joke.
No.
No.
Like,
Maniac.
oh man, the best thing that came out of it. I mean, Fate, he killed it. He killed it. He killed
Definitely.
it.
And like,
Oh my god.
I just want way more of that.
Yeah,
Like,
give me a JSA
just-
movie. Give me a
just
proper
lean into
Yeah,
it,
JSA
oh,
right.
movie.
Yeah.
God, yes.
Lean into that. Get me Sedana. Get me fucking Constantine and print it. You don't have to even
Mhm.
try. Dude, I've been saying this for so long that like it drives me nuts because I'm not a huge DC fan because Marvel did everything right. Like I liked DC comics growing up. I have a couple of, favorites. I don't really like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman because of how much they change them from what the ones that I like. Like Superman in the movies is never the Superman in the comics who like helps people from committing suicide and gets the little kid home on time for the like
Christopher
Superman
Reeve's
is best
Superman
in
is
the
the closest, I
small
think.
reasons. Yeah, absolutely. But that when
Mhm.
was the last time we got that? Like the same
1978.
thing with like
2006.
yeah, the George Clooney Batman movies, really good. If you like let yourself have
Hold
fun
on,
with
hold on,
it,
hold on, hold on. You said George Clooney?
I love them. I love
If you
Batman
said
and
Val
Robin.
Kilmer,
Val
I'd be right
Kilmer's
there
too,
with you.
but
Batman Forever until the end of time is my
Yes.
favorite Batman
but
film.
Batman and Robin
period.
is a goofy and
I
fun
thought
movie.
the word was going to
Like,
be good.
so I don't think it's a good movie.
Thank you.
It's far from a
I
good
wouldn't
movie, but it
wouldn't
is
say
my
it's a good
favorite
movie.
It's enjoyable.
But it's very fun and like those
Holy
that
What's the
era
Battle
of
Batman?
Batman is so good. It's just like with the tool belts and the
Oh,
fucking
man.
all the shots are really like close up and bright. If you're watching a Batman movie and it looks like it is on a set, that's a good Batman movie in my opinion. If you're watching a Batman movie and it looks like it's in real life, I don't know what to tell you. But if it looks like it's in a fucking like Joker warehouse, now we're on the right fucking path. If it looks like if in Mr. Freeze's lair or
Yep.
Poison Ivy's lair, sign me up. If it's just nondescript warehouse number 7, why do I give a
Well, that's
shit?
why the
He's
Burton
just
movies are so good.
yeah, exact because they
Batman
look like a
Returns.
fucking set. It looks like a
Yeah, the
Tim
Penguin
Burton
had an
set.
army of actual fucking penguins.
Yes.
Like
This movie's rule.
you can't act like that's a serious
Yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
that dude was gonna blow up the whole city.
right. And that's what's so terrifying and what's so fun and interesting about that kind of Batman is all of his rogues gallery was created in the 30s when they were all like, I'm gonna blow up the city, and it wasn't taken seriously.
Right.
But if you look at that through the lens of like someone who's actually gonna blow up the city, it becomes really fun and really scary at the same
Yeah.
time.
That's why of the many seasons of regrettable Flash, I don't know about regrettable, but
Some
like
of it's okay.
it's okay. It's a good show generally. But like that episode, or was it 2 episode arc with the Trickster, like the Trickster Junior?
Oh, I don't think I saw that
Yeah.
one.
They had Mark
don't remember
Hamill
that one.
come back and reprise the role from the 90s Flash show. They used they used shots from that show of like
That's
this happened 30 years ago.
So awesome.
Like this, and I was like, this is awesome, but like it's Mark Hamill, so he like kills the role, and you're like, damn, like this dude's terrifying. Like this guy is a problem. Like, yeah, he's just like throwing toys at you and shit, but like he will murder you.
yeah. One of my favorite Marvel villains of all time is Arcade, because I just
Oh my god, Arcade.
just
Arcade
love-
is always Arcade's like the thing they bring out to like, you know what? We know people like this guy. People are gonna buy a mini series if we and that's they just did that last year. And they were like, we're gonna put an Arcade miniseries out. Will it matter to anything? Absolutely not. But people will fucking buy it.
yeah.
And they know that. But it's because if you bring him in, it's like a 2 to 3 issue arc in an X-Men book, and then he's gone because he loses. He always loses.
Yeah.
I think the most serious, and even that's kind of like a nebulous term here, the most serious he ever was in that event, was it Avengers Academy run,
Yeah.
where he was like, it was like what's it called?
Like Battle World almost.
Yeah, like Battle World, like
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back to like the Japanese movie that like inspired.
Yeah, it was what's it called? You're thinking of the
Battle Royale.
Yeah, Battle
Battle
Royale.
Royale.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they all gotta
Because
kill each
that's what inspired Hunger Games.
Mhm.
And it's like it was that he just turned this island into like, oh, okay, tiny Avengers. Now you all have to fucking fight to survive.
Yeah.
And it's like people did some wild shit, and that was the most serious he ever got. But he still ended up being like a goofy dude about it.
Yeah.
And that's what's most interesting about it, is like this dude is unfucking hinged.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
to this day, I do not know if that woman that he's always with is real, or if she ever was. I don't know. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. That's the point. That's why it's so crazy. That's so great.
That's actually why the first like half season of Legion like captured me so much, because for 4 solid episodes, I did not know what was real. I didn't know if she was real. I didn't know if any of the facility was real. I didn't know if he was even awake.
I have to
Like,
finish
I
that
dude,
show.
no
Legion
fucking
season
clue
1 was
what's
so good.
Moon Knight felt that way too. I really liked the first couple of episodes of Moon Knight. Like I'm happy with what they did all together, but the first couple of episodes as they were coming out, it was so great because I've been a Moon Knight fan forever, and I've been trying to get people to get into Moon Knight forever. And when that show was coming out, like I had people I worked with who I had my background on my computer as the Moon Knight logo since the day that it was announced. They came out to me and they're like, yo, I watched that Moon Knight show. That was really good. Now I understand why you like this character so much. And I was like, I'm being Mr. Knight for Halloween this year.
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
so hype. I got the costume because like last year we had to be fucking Harry Potter for my son, but the year before that I was Vision and my wife was Wanda, but
Oh,
I
wow.
was like Halloween Vision from the show. Like, and that was important to me because when I was a child, like 8 or 9 years old, I dressed up as Vision and nobody knew who the fuck I was. And
Wow.
now they made a whole TV show about Vision, and he also has a Halloween costume in it. So I just wore the costume. Everyone knew who I was, and my inner child was healed forever. It was so great. Everyone was like, "What are you, a ghost?" I was like, "No, I'm the Vision." They're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "He's a
Uh,
superhero."
uh,
But
Kid,
no, it's. I
Kid
mean,
Alex. That's
just
so
like
sad.
Thanos being a household name that
wild.
I can. It's the craziest
So
thing. Like,
crazy now.
we won. Like I spent my whole childhood getting made fun of for this shit, and now like the bros that used to make fun of me are like, "Oh, I'm going to see fucking Guardians 3. I can't wait." Like I won. That's good. That's all I need.
We can't talk about that movie. That movie's entirely too emotional.
That movie messed
Yeah.
me up. It's really good. I love that. I think that might be my favorite Marvel trilogy. Like I love Captain America so fucking much, and those movies are brilliant. But like Guardians came out of nowhere.
I
People did
contend
not know that
that
it was
Captain
gonna
Guardians 3
America.
was
I
messed up.
contend that Guardians is the no. I contend that there are no trilogies in the MCU
okay.
because
Okay.
there are no three films where the entire
Yeah.
through arc of any character
Yep.
Happens in only
only
those three
happens in those
films.
three
Yep.
movies.
Yep.
That's a
That's a
very
fair.
fair
It's a
point.
fair. Yeah. I mean,
Because
that's a
for
fair
Guardians, at
assessment.
the very least, you have to include Infinity War and Endgame because it explains the whole Gamora
You have
thing.
to.
Yep. Yep.
True.
Which I
Yep.
will say they did a great job in that elevator scene of just
Yeah,
kind
of
of like
recapping it.
if for some reason you're one of the 7 people on planet Earth that didn't see this, here's what happened.
That's
It's
funny.
so funny.
And Cap needs the Avengers movies. At the very least, you need like the first
You need
Avengers
all. I
movie.
mean, Cap is
Avengers
great.
for
Yeah.
sure, Civil War,
It's a lot.
or
Yeah.
for
It's a
sure.
lot.
I mean, for sure, Age of Ultron because
Yeah.
that's what sets up Civil War. There's just no way
Yeah,
around
because
that.
that's
True.
how you get Wanda and
Okay,
them in the
I'm
mix.
gonna have
So
a fucking controversial opinion. I think Age of Ultron is the best Avengers movie. It is the movie where we get to
Well, it's
see
been a
them
great
be the
conversation, guys.
Avengers.
And
I definitely
ends.
don't agree with that, but I will say that it is nice that it is the only Avengers movie where they are team the entire
That's what I'm
time.
saying. It's the movie where we get to see them be the Avengers. And like
Yeah,
everyone is at their best in that movie. They all do the best job of it. Like the whole fucking Vision thing rules. I was so hyped when that whole like the whole movie played out. And I was just because since then they have done nothing but fuck my dude Vision. They have done nothing but ruin his life, make every moment of his life miserable. Age of Ultron ends with him destroying Ultron, just lasering him down, and that fucking ruled.
what I think should have happened, and this is I think what the MCU is missing is the classic Marvel last page. I think
Oh,
that
you're
is the
right.
number one
Yeah.
thing that's missing from the MCU right now. I wanted so bad at the end of Age of Ultron that you just see like blank room, a computer kicks on, and his like outline.
We needed it. You're right.
That's it. That's
You're
it.
right.
You don't have to come back to it for a decade. I don't even care.
Ever. Yeah, ever.
It's just in there. It's just in there cycling in your brain like he's going to come back. He might
Yeah.
come back. So then it would have never been, oh, is it Mephisto? Then we're like, wait, what if it's Ultron? What if Ultron comes
Yeah.
back?
Oh shit.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like,
shit.
just those last pages. Like, I thought they were going to give it to us because at the end of the first episode of WandaVision, they did that. Or it's first or second. They showed like, what's her face's?
Yeah, Darcy's computer. Right?
Darcy's computer, and I was like, "Oh shit, are they doing the last page?"
Yeah.
Because I was like, at the end of this, what I wanted at the end of any of them, you just come back and you see a armored silver glove,
Ugh.
green cape.
Yeah,
That's
right.
it. That's it. You just acknowledge, oh yeah, by the way, Doctor Doom, and then
I mean,
you don't say nothing about it. You don't talk
we're
about it.
getting
Nothing.
Doom. It's that Doom has to be the next big thing. That has to be where they're going with all this.
I mean, from you're saying from Kang we go to Doom.
Yeah, it has to be. I can't imagine anybody because so here's what I think, right? Is like we go from Kang, the Fantastic Four gets introduced, and once that happens, we're in Doom territory. We have to do Secret War to collapse the nonsense that Doctor Strange is unfolding in whatever movie's coming out with him and Clea. And then
Is that coming out before Secret Wars?
I think so. It's like the next thing that's coming out. Doom has to be in Secret. I feel like
I mean,
they
I think
can't
he
do
will
it
be in
without
Secret
him.
War.
Yeah.
I just don't know that I want them to red herring Doom. I want them to give us
Okay, yeah.
Victor Von Doom, the helpful scientist, throughout the entire arc, and at the end of Secret Wars, tape up, mask on.
He gets
That would-
destroyed. Well, I think that so from my understanding, they are like introducing the Fantastic Four as like a young squad now. Like they're not doing like 60s Fantastic Four. Or if they
That's what I'm
are,
saying. That's what I'm
they're
saying.
from the 60s.
Well,
and being pulled in here.
the current theory that is that the time displaced, that they're from the 60s, but when they went to the negative zone or whatever,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
popped
yeah.
out for them, it was a few seconds, but it's
But
been
Victor
30
is
years.
with them when they do that.
Probably.
Well,
Yeah.
we don't know that. I mean, that's not how
I
it
mean,
goes
in the
down. That's how
comics,
they
he
did.
is, right.
Well, that's in
No.
Ultimate. That's what it is.
In the Ultimate,
Oh,
he's with
okay.
not in the original. The original, he gets his powers just from the experiment to save his mom going wrong, and then his face gets
Right,
scarred.
And
and he
right,
travels
that's
the
like that's a
world.
magic element because to really get Doom right, in my opinion, you have to do the balance of
You have to
technology
do the
and
magic. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And like and I found the actor. He's a Serbian Roma guy, and he's got the look,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
like, this is Doom. Like that feels like Doom. And
I
I
mean,
was
we
like,
wanted to keep a comic origin accurate Doom. You can still have him go to school or read in the 60s, and he could have just used his magic to
Magic and
preserve his
time
look.
to keep himself young. Yeah, for
oh
sure.
yeah,
Because Doom's a vain guy. He travels the
Yeah.
world.
Oh my
His
God,
face got
yeah.
scarred. Like he would definitely use magic to also keep himself young.
He could have the experiment could have shunted him into one of the many Doctor Strange dimensions, and during the Doctor Strange movie, post credits, he comes out.
Oh, so going back to what you were talking about earlier about like, references and how we deal with those kinds of things. Funny enough that we're talking about Doom, one of the main villain that ends up being the main villain in the Luminaries is a pastiche of Doctor Doom because one of the characters in the Luminaries, Ezra, he's the video game character. His dad is basically Mr. Fantastic to this guy's Doctor Doom. So the Dr. Wily, Dr. Light relationship.
Gotcha.
His name is Azar in our book. He is robotics expert, builds robots, builds accessories for people who've lost limbs, that kind of stuff. Whereas Ezra's dad, Ed, is focused on AI. So they are working together because they're trying to make a AI robot. And what ends up happening is Ed's dad, through his experiment, or Ezra's dad, through his experiments, figures out a way to create matter from energy. So he doesn't need the robots anymore. He programs the AI and then generates it, like 3D prints it essentially from, hard light. So their relationship breaks because, Ed's like, look, I found this new technology. And Azar's like, you don't need me anymore then. He's like, no, like people still need robots. And he's like, no, they don't. Not if you're
Not
so
if you
he
can
goes
3D print
right.
robots.
Yeah, so he goes crazy. And as a result, Ed disappears, time passes, Ezra, loses his dad, and the story unfolds and you meet both of them eventually and learn all of this. So the whole Doctor Doom, Mr. Fantastic thing is something that I've always played on in this story because I love that, like, they were partners, and then one of them didn't need the other one anymore, and the other one got jealous about it, and like, this is Dr. Wily and Dr. Light from Mega Man.
Well, it's always the best kind of rivalry when the two heroes, or the hero and the villain have a history together.
Right.
Like,
oh yeah.
like the reason people liked the Eddie Brock Peter Parker thing is because Eddie Brock, righteously or not, blamed Peter Parker for all his losses.
Right.
So like there was that connection, even though it was really one-sided. But like Professor Xavier and Magneto, when they were still enemies. Like there's absolutely something to be said for, you know, you have your main characters and your main villains have some sort of history, because that makes you more invested.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
because you get automatically, there is a sense of disconnect when it's just like, oh, we are going to be heroes, and then it's like random villain shows up. It's like Mole Man isn't as popular as Doctor Doom
For a
because he has
reason.
no history.
Right.
It's like he showed up and he disappeared, and he showed up like 15, 20 issues later, and then he disappeared. And that was his whole thing, is like, he just shows up, causes a little chaos, and leaves. He's a villain of the week, you know?
Yeah.
That's why, you know, Paste Pot Pete, aka the Trapster, you know,
Love
these are
Paste
villains of the
Pot
week, you know,
Pete.
these guys just show up and leave. But like, when you get a Venom, when you get a Scorpion, when you get a Kingpin who now has like a vested in a reason to fight Spider-Man because he's interfering with his, you know, his crime rings, that's when it gets interesting.
Yep.
That's when you have like a solid narrative happening, and it's not just a villain of the week kind of moment.
And that's the funny thing too, is like with the way we were telling this story, because, you know, we kind of introduce all of the villains at once. Like, did you ever watch the Watchmen TV show?
Not yet.
So definitely recommend, if you like Watchmen at all. I think it was fucking fantastic. And the thing that I liked the most about it was kind of what enabled us to write the story in the first place. We had been looking for the nugget, where to start the story. We had this universe, we had these characters, we had these superheroes, we had the luminaries, we knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't know what story we wanted to tell in it and how we wanted it to unfold. And in the Watchmen show, it's basically about, she's kind of a detective, not really. She might, like, she's a private eye, I guess, and she just doesn't know anything. She's like not involved in the story enough. And there's so many moments where something will happen in front of her and she'll just be like, "What the fuck?" And the whole audience is sitting at their couch going, "What the fuck?" And like, she has just as much information about the Watchmen and the movie as you do. Like, you and her are going on this mystery together. And every
Interesting.
time it unfolds, you're just like, a little bit more info here, a little, this character says something else, does something, and then finally all of a sudden you're putting it together, and it starts feeling really good. And like, that experience that I got from watching that show, I was like, I need to do that. I need to put that in my book, and I need people to feel that. And once I had that little like emotional nugget, I was like, okay, now the story makes sense. It's told from the perspective of someone who used to be involved in it, but now she's not. So she used to be a superhero. Maybe she quit, maybe she's a psycho, whatever.
Right.
But now she doesn't know anything about what happened to them. And someone comes to her and is like, I don't know what's going on. You need to help me. Here's what I have. And she just starts with like a small nugget of information and goes from there. And once we had that, the ball started rolling. And we were like, okay, we can start from a place where we don't need to explain everything about this universe and who all these characters are. Because
Right.
she doesn't fucking know. So she doesn't care. The big silver dude who pops into her living room, she doesn't know who he is. She's fighting with her. And like, as the story unfolds, she's learning more and more. More characters are getting introduced that only have little snippets of the story, and all of a sudden, the larger story starts getting pieced together.
I like that. I really like that. And I didn't know that I would like that until I read, and this was just like last year, I did the audiobooks for the Chronicles of Amber series, which I didn't know about, which is weird because I had the comics back in the day and I always wanted to read them, but I always had like 3 or 4. So like I never had the whole run, and I'm a completionist, so I can't read 3 or 4 and then like spend who knows how long trying to find 4. So I never actually started reading it, but I always liked the like art, and the universe that I saw was very interesting. When you start listening or you start reading the book, the main character, your point of view character, has amnesia.
Oh, great.
And everything you learn as it happens. So like the amount of what the fuckness for a solid almost 2 full books, I kept turning around to my coworker. I was like, Chris, I don't fucking know what's going on. And I don't know if I can finish reading this book because I don't know anything. Like, fucking worlds are changing. This dude was driving a car, then they were on a fucking carriage. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I wanted people to feel with, and like it's a gamble, right? Because there's such a fine line between I don't know what the fuck's going on, I need to read more, and I don't know what the fuck's going on, I'm out.
Yeah,
So like we try to make it so that the threads are just tenuous enough to where you can like pluck on them. And that's why we do a lot of the, referential stuff. So you could be like, I recognize that character. I could see where they're going with this. And like also, if you're doing a Power Ranger, if one of the characters is supposed to be kind of like Power Ranger knockoff, that comes with a lot of stuff that you don't need to say up front. That's
right.
already said he's going to be a type of person with a type of attitude, with a type of behavior, with a type of power set. If this guy is supposed to be a museum guard who just got a magic sword, you're going to get that vibe from him. And it's going to be
Right.
like kind of easy to pick up on these fresh
Yeah, like you
ideas.
don't need to explain that this guy doesn't know how to fight. Like this
Yes.
guy, he's not a martial arts expert.
Yes.
He's not
Exactly.
gonna whip out the like life-saving karate.
Yeah.
This guy was
Exactly.
getting minimum wage to work the night shift.
Yes. Yeah. So like that informs a lot about how our characters then interact with each other. And it's just like it's a lot of fun to set it up and then watch it play out. I've never been able to do that. Like every time, all my characters always sounded like me when I would write it. I'd have the four me's talking to each other. And one of the benefits of working with a crew and having a bunch of editors and writers and all this stuff is like there's so many voices in the project that all these characters now have developed their own personalities that we can like Corey can write how Marissa speaks now because we have so much dialogue from Marissa and so much attitude from her and so much information on who she is and how
Right.
she would respond to things.
Yeah, I feel that fully because that's like when you read an established character and you have an idea of what this person sounds like. Whenever someone tries to make Scott Summers sound like hip, it never flies. As much
Very
as
obvious.
I'm a Scott Summers stand, like
Same.
I ride for Scott Cyclops. That's my favorite X-Man. But like he's not hip. He's just not
Yeah,
hip. Sorry.
he's his best when he's like Boy Scout leader, like when he's
Yeah,
like
like
the
he's
good
in
guy.
charge. He
The
knows what's going on.
hippest, the
It's the
hippest
same thing with
Cyclops ever
Cap.
gets is when he tells a knowingly dad joke to annoy someone on purpose. That's
Yeah,
about as
yeah,
hip as Cyclops gets.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's about it. That's about it. Like
And he's
when
my favorite
the
X-Men.
best
So
the best thing that happened to Cyclops was when they started writing him that he'd taken like he started owning the like dad role
Yeah,
yeah,
of
yeah,
the X-Men.
definitely.
Because up until for a
Definitely.
while, he was still like seeking approval. There was right after he came back from being dead or possessed by apocalypse or whatever
Apocalypse.
you want to call
Yeah,
it. He had there was an issue where they had him like go on a camping trip with his dad. And all he wanted was his dad to understand him. And it's like, look, I was a teenager. I had no dad at the time. I mean, I still don't really. Like, so like I grew up without a father. So like I completely related with that.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm 40 now. I am not seeking approval from my father. I often take like a leadership role in my friend groups. And so it's like, I need to be I gotta kind of own that. I gotta kind of own that and just be like, all right, well, sometimes, in my relationship, I make decisions. My wife is a very ADHD, and she's like, there's all this stuff to do. And I was like, all right, cool, throw this away, boom, boom, boom. She's like, and I'm like, yeah, well, someone's got to make this call. And I'm okay to do it.
I'm like your wife, man. I'm like, and my wife's just like, just fucking do it, and then it'll be done. And I'm like, but what about? And she's just do it, and it'll
Yeah.
be done. That's funny.
Yeah, no, it's always good to have like true to character voices because there was something in the recent X-Men. Somebody pointed it out, and I like couldn't unsee it when I read it. They said something, and it was like weirdly
Totally out of
like
character.
pop
Yeah.
culture relevant.
Oh,
It was
dude,
like
that's
IRL pop culture relevant, and I was like,
so kind of
nah, like
referencing like what you were bringing up before about like, do you put like real stuff in the like? That's the one thing that kind of irks me. Like when Marvel did that for a real long time, either it was Ultimates or just like their line of regular books. They were like putting celebrities in it, and like
Ultimates
you'd
was
be watching TV and fucking the news was Stephen Colbert, and like I could not fucking stand that stuff. I
I
was
don't
like,
know.
I don't like it.
I always kind of like that stuff in Marvel because that was always their shtick, even going back to the early days. It's the comics out right outside your door kind of thing. Like they've always had like
Right.
celebrity cameos and tongue-in-cheek references in the background, and like I like that because I like the MCU. I mean Marvel comics in general, just being like our world as it exists now plus superheroes,
I
and
think
like if you and it,
someone.
and if you look at Marvel as opposed to DC, how they do their world building, Marvel is very much that. Like even
Oh
down to
yeah,
how the
absolutely.
even down to how the citizens treat the superheroes. I was on a Reddit thread a few months ago where someone was saying how like the people in the DC comics deserve to be saved more than the Marvel population because the Marvel population sucks because they're racist and they're
Oh, and
bigoted
they hate
They're
and they hate their
racist, they're
heroes
bigoted, like
and
yeah.
they turn on their heroes in a second and someone was like, yeah, because Marvel makes their stories based on real life. Look at the world right now. You don't think the X-Men wouldn't be dealing with racism in 2023 still? Like, and so
right.
like and so to lean into that further, having Steve Colbert be drawn in to be, on the news or something like, for me, it helps reinforce that whole notion. No, this is like our world plus superheroes, not a
Yeah,
superhero world.
9/11 happened in the Marvel universe. 9/11 did
Exactly.
not happen in the DCU.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So like I
yeah.
like that from the Marvel universe. So they try to make it like
I will
Because
say I think like a good portion of that comes from there was a weird obsession with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Marvel for a while. And like he was in so
What?
many books and being read like I think at one point he was one like Wanda's girlfriend or some or boyfriend, someone he was someone's boyfriend, or maybe it was Captain Marvel. I got fucking pissed though. I was like, it's enough of this. Like I don't need to see
I
Freddie
like
Prinze Jr. in a
vaguely recall
fucking
that.
yeah, I forget who
So
it was. I'm
random.
gonna look it up now because I'm mad. But and I don't even dude, I don't even have anything against Freddie Prinze Jr. Like
Freddie
I don't even
Prinze
really
Jr. Look,
care.
have you seen the like Star Wars
I
rant?
did, yeah,
Bro,
I did see that.
that put him on top. That
Yeah.
to me, Freddie Prinze Jr. became
Like
all time because of that rant.
I gotta look up this rant now.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm not familiar.
It is basically him being like, this is what Star Wars is. This isn't me making shit up like the rest of you. This is what they told me. This is what Dave Filoni told me to my face.
that's so fucking funny. Oh, okay. Yes. So here's what it was. Ultimate Hulk. There's a storyline in which he tries to kill Freddie Prinze Jr. And it's
I
like
remember that. I
Why?
remember that.
wrong.
Oh my god.
Ultimates by Mark Millar.
Ultimates was real big to try
Yeah,
to like modernize and like put
yeah.
people put like
Yeah.
the characters into like real world
When I
stuff.
was a kid, when I was reading these books as they were coming out, besides like this fucking Freddie Prinze Jr., I thought it was really cool.
Oh yeah.
And I went back and I read some of that shit. First off, Ultimate Spider-Man still holds up. Ultimate X-Men better than Ultimate Spider-Man.
I just
The
picked up the
Ultimate
omnibus for Ultimate X-Men.
is horrendous. The Ultimates is embarrassing to have
Only Ultimates one
bought.
is good. From like two on, they
No,
released.
dude, Ultimates 1 is maybe the worst.
I
And
feel like I remember Ultimates pretty well.
not
What do
story.
you think doesn't
No,
hold up?
no. The Ultimates one because the whole weird incest thing doesn't even come into like Ultimates 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Ultimates
but
gets
Three.
like 3, yeah.
yeah, Ultimates gets weird, but like
That was a
all
weird. That was of the
all of
choices
it,
you can make as a writer. That was definitely the worst one.
a
Yeah.
lot of like Captain America, and this was like
Oh,
obviously
you're talking
back.
about weirdly nationalistic Captain America.
He is a fucking like Nazi, and it's weird. I'm
He's
like,
from the 50s, bro.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
from
Like
the 50s, and Millar was like, "Yeah, let's make him from the 50s."
when I was a kid reading it, I was like, this is so real. I love it. But as an adult who loved those characters, who like watched all the movies and I was like, I have my Happy Cat back. Like I don't want this.
Yeah,
This
that
is
was
too dark.
definitely like if that
But
Captain America came out today, that would
yeah.
be the new banner all the America folks would be
Oh
wearing.
yeah,
They would dump the Punisher logo so fast and bring back the Captain
Dude,
America.
so fucking fast. And here's the
Oh,
thing
man.
is like again like I conceptually I like Ultimate Cap because yes, realistically a pro-war, pro-nationalist man from the 50s would
it's
be
very
Ultimate Cap.
realistic.
But it doesn't make it for a better character because the whole reason why Steve Rogers in it once 616 works is because he's like the perfect person. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because he's
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
moral
He's a
compass
good
for the
guy.
whole universe.
Yeah,
You,
Yeah.
he's genuinely morally good. He
Yeah.
is Marvel Universe's Superman. And
yeah.
that's why when you mentioned the boys earlier, I was like, can we just skip that? Because
Yeah.
to me, it is the corniest fucking thing ever is what if Superman was evil? I'm
right. I'm right
bored.
there
I'm
with you.
so fucking bored of
And
it.
Invincible did
right
it better.
there with you.
Invincible did it better, and it is not just literally let's take Superman but make him evil, because that's what Injustice is. That's what The Boys is.
Yep.
But it was like, let's take a Superman-like character and say he was evil the whole time.
Yeah, right.
Because like Injustice is flat out like this dude.
Superman has a breaking point.
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
he's breaks,
loses
and I was
it,
like,
yeah.
but that's the point of Superman is that he doesn't break. So that's
right. Yeah.
that's
yeah,
why I
yeah.
can't get behind this story.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then the boys is like he's manufactured. There's like he was like conditioned to be bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's just it's not a equal it's not an equal comparison.
right.
But like the equal comparison really is Omni-Man, and Omni-Man was just always a bad guy. Like that the Omni-Man is like there's a couple stories where the Kryptonians turn into like invaders. They just touched on that in like one of the alternate realities on My Adventures with Superman. They did that in a couple,
which is so good. By
I
the
gotta
way.
watch
Oh
that.
my god!
all time Superman cartoon.
Hands down.
I'm gonna say it right
like
now,
without a doubt. I think like leaps and bounds. Like within the first 20 minutes of the first episode, that's pretty
bro.
clear.
The honesty
Yeah.
and like that and Superman and Lois. Best Superman on screen representation since the Tim Daly Show.
Yeah,
the
really,
series.
just really fucking good.
Damn.
I was blown away, and like I haven't been giddy about Superman in so long.
Forever.
And just being able to be like, no, I mean like, listen, I'm not a huge Superman guy, but there are so many Superman moments that I'm really into because like when done poorly, Superman is the least interesting character of all time. When done really well, he's so great. It's you are reminded why Superman is fucking the best. Like you are reminded why Superman is so great in those
100%.
moments.
Superman has this legacy about him that even though you're not there for the whole story, if you have this, if you've like latched onto what the legacy of it is, if you fully understand the character, and it doesn't even have to be like some deep, exploration. Like if you just get the character, you can be shown what might look like just like a pass by moment. There's a right after he had his electric powers, the moment he comes back in an issue of Justice League, he flies in and Flash looks over and it's like almost from a first person perspective, and Flash is like, "Oh, it's you. Oh, you got this." And that was like, I wasn't even a Superman reader at the time, but I was like, damn, that's cool. Like, I get it. I get like, oh, Superman's back. And it's almost like you feel the collective sigh of relief. It's like, oh crap. Because it's like, yeah, Electric Superman was cool. Like he could do some stuff. But like Superman is back. It's different. It's a different feeling. Like I loved the Electric Superman look. I love the exploration of a different power set. But like at the end of the day, the Man of Steel, not man who like passes through steel. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But like, yeah, that's the thing that I think to swing it back to what you guys do. Like, I like the fact that you're spending this time and building out this universe, because I think in a lot of situations with indie comics, there is sort of a lack of like, it's like, oh, we get this character and it's like, all right, the next issue, obviously Kickstarters and budgets and all these things matter. So like all these things have to kind of be contextualized. But just as a reader, I'm grabbing a first issue. If I'm grabbing a first issue and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And it's like, I have questions. And now because somebody's working on another project or they've got all obviously we've all got lives, we've got responsibilities. If it's like, oh, 6 months for the next issue, oh man, like the questions fade, the interest fades. So yeah, will I take a look at the next campaign? Probably. Will I back it? I don't know if I might be, I kind of like reignited my spark to like really dive into the indie space again. At the beginning, mid 2020, I found Millennium Comics on Instagram. They do a book called Delta Dogs, and I
Okay,
was
yeah,
just
yeah,
fascinated
yep.
that I hadn't heard of them. And I was like, oh man, they're like on 11 issues. Like that's
Yep.
wild. And in my head, because of my experience across the indie space at the time, I was like, oh, this is like 7 years of work.
yeah.
And they're like, oh no, we do monthly. And I was like, I'm sorry, the fuck what? You do what now? You hitting
Crazy.
monthly, bro? Hold on, let's
Crazy.
have a
Crazy.
conversation. What? And then it's like, oh, let me pick up the first issue. And that's why I advocate so heavily for digital. Like you have to sell digital copies. If you guys don't sell digital copies, make sure you fucking
You
hook it
know
up.
we
we
definitely
do,
do.
yeah.
So it's like I grabbed the first issue. It was like $1.99 on digital, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. You know what? I'm gonna pick up 2 more because I always give every series 3 issues." By the time I was halfway through the 3rd issue, I bought the rest of the first arc, which was up to
Awesome.
like 9. So
Awesome.
just because like I was like, "Oh, it's right there. Boom, boom, boom. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go." And I was literally ready to pull the trigger on the entire collection and volumes. But then I looked at it. I was like, $100. Maybe I should just pause for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's like when
Slow
you
it
do it
down a little
one at a
bit.
time, 30 bucks a pop.
Yeah,
It's not that big a
over
deal.
time you can nail them out.
When you do 3 volumes at once and it's $100, you're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Adds
No,
up
I
maybe, I,
mean,
quick.
maybe I sell a couple books. I got a couple extras. Maybe I sell
there
some
you
books
go.
and then make the money for it first.
We're finding ourselves in a space where, like, a couple years ago, we had no idea that this is where we would be. We were like, let's just make a comic book and see what happens. And slowly we started doing the right things. We started making the right decisions. We were careful about what project we worked on next and where we spent our money and how, like we were if we were doing this the way that we should be doing it, we would have had 8 more fucking Comic Cons under our belt. I'd already be selling books on TikTok. We'd have 12 different ways to, get our books on Amazon and all this other stuff. But we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to overextend ourselves. And like this point where we're at now is the first point where we have a book on Kickstarter, Luminaries 3, which is like almost done and ready next up. And then we have Thieves in the Nest and Bubble Pop in production and a couple other things in the wings that we haven't even we've got a couple other projects that aren't comics. So we're working on some board game ideas over here. We have music that we work on with
Okay,
all
well,
these
you want to drop an
projects.
exclusive here on Panels on Pages? Just
Yeah,
give people a
yeah,
little taste.
yeah. And that's the thing is we just we keep an open mind when people are doing interesting things. We try to do interesting things with them. In the Luminaries, every issue there's a fake ad. There's like a 1-page comic book ad, for old toys and stuff like that. And every issue we get a different artist to do it. And the first one was just a friend of ours, and then the second one was another friend of ours, and the third one is the first time that I've met another creator in the indie comic space and said, "Hey, this is what we do with our books. Can you make one for us?" And he was like, "Yeah." And now we have him in our book, and we can just reach out to different artists and collaborate and that kind of stuff. And it's been so fun because at our heart, the reason why we started doing this in the first place was because we just wanted to have fun. We
For sure.
weren't doing this because we wanted to make comic books. We weren't doing this because we wanted to be famous or make movies or sell books or whatever. Me and Corey and Mo were sitting in Corey's, attic chatting about superheroes and what if we could make our own, what they would be. And that all turned into this. And at its heart, it's always been about just having fun. And if we keep that little nugget the whole way, everything will come out good because it's fun to do.
That's awesome. And that's a great mentality to keep.
Yeah.
So you said this is the first time you're interacting with or collaborating with another artist. So Josh, are you doing all the art for all of these books, all of these projects?
Yeah.
Well,
Damn.
not the Bubble Pop book.
So Josh
I was gonna
has
say,
done
we are
Josh
starting to
has
branch off.
done all of the art for all 4, now coming to be total 6 of our books so far. And then he will be working on the 7th one with Thieves in the Nest. And we're working with a new artist, David Lopez, on Bubble Pop. So that will be our first actual book by someone else or actual project by someone else. But I mean, listen, if Josh was uh able to freeze time and live in a state where the world didn't move around him, we would only have Josh do our art because he's the best. Our relationship with him is one where, I feel so akin to him when we get on and we start chatting about coming up with a character, blah blah blah. I feel so safe giving him my ideas and knowing that they'll come out the way that either I think they should or the better, even better. I mean, there's so many times where we've sent him text and he comes back with the character I've had in my head since I was 6. And like that's just nailed it on the first try. It's really great. And we've worked with other artists in smaller capacities. Obviously, all artists are fantastic when you break it down. But our relationship is a friendship at
Right.
first, which is really great because I first reached out to him to work with him on concept art and stuff, and slowly but surely we were like, we're like very similar. We have like very similar likes and understandings. Like we like the same stuff. We like putting out the same kind of vibe and like telling the same stories. And it's just been great to work with him. So I mean, we like to think that he's our art director. So even when we're working, I'm working with this other guy, Dave. I'm sharing it all with the group. I'm showing everybody. We're a big, you know moldable team. We're always trying to keep everyone abreast, and one day maybe there'll be enough time for us to branch out and do all these different things, but it works so well with all of us just kind of like constantly hands on with everything, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, what is the next show where like the whole squad's together?
So typically we have meetings on Wednesday that are shown on my TikTok. So
Oh, wow. You guys do you like your meetings live?
yeah, we do. So most of our meetings we have typically done offline. We were trying to start doing them more, live on TikTok. And it's been a lot of fun. We're also, looking to interview other comic creators and stuff like that. We'd love to have you on.
For
If we're
sure.
live and you're scrolling and you see us, shoot us a message. We'll shoot you the Zoom. You can join. But we're trying to like do a kind of social thing with that. I've met a lot of people on TikTok who are also making comic books. They're all super friendly, they're all very talented, and I think that they deserve more eyes. And
For
some of
sure.
them are have more followers than me, some of them have less followers than me, and it's a really cool community to be part of. But so our next one is Wednesday. We will likely be live. um Most of us will probably be there, because it's a weekly meeting. Every so often, one of us doesn't show and that
Right.
kind of stuff. There are 7 of us at the moment to go around. One of us just had twins a year ago, so he's been kind of
Oh,
MIA
wow.
taking care of them. But he'll probably be back in the fold now that things are getting a little easier. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. We chat. Josh draws, Maddie draws. We come up with cool ideas. We work on stories. I think the next meeting we're going to be doing some Thieves in the Nest stuff. We have some layouts to go over, and yeah, it's going to be great.
That's super awesome. That's super awesome. That was not the answer I was expecting because I meant
Oh,
to
okay.
say what like conventions.
Oh,
What
oh, oh. So we actually, Josh is in Michigan.
okay.
Me and Mo are in New Jersey. Our buddy Corey is in Philly.
Oh geez.
Madeline and our other writer Sam are also in Michigan. So half of our team is in New
We're
Jersey,
all
half of them is in Michigan. We have never actually met in real life. So our crew and the Michigan crew have never actually been able to meet yet. We are planning on doing that. Josh's next Comic Con. When is your next Comic Con?
we're gonna be at Grand Rapids in Michigan,
I was
Comic
just
Con.
gonna say Grand Rapids would be a great place to meet up.
Yes, exactly. Yep. That
Come visit.
yeah, exactly. And then we're gonna be at the Fall Motor City Comic Con literally the next weekend, all in November. So
And then
yep.
for us, we don't have any lined up. We were supposed to do one in October, but things got a little crazy and we had to not do that. We are probably going to wait until Luminaries 3 comes out, because when that comes out, we'll be in a kind of like production lull and not a like printing and shipping lull. So
Sure.
once this Kickstarter's over and the ball is rolling on Luminaries 3, we're going to start looking for stuff. all of it is usually in New York and New Jersey, and it's all smaller stuff. The one we did last time that we will be doing again when it comes around in, I think, May, is the Garden State Comic Fest, which was
Okay.
a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, we will always post on our TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff if we plan to be anywhere in, way in advance so people can come find us. But we also have a website. It is www.lucky33comics.com. If you go there, you can buy our stuff. It's not the easiest way to do it. The easiest way to do it will be the Kickstarter that is going on right now, because then
Nice.
I don't have to worry about shipping your stuff out separately. I can just include it in all this when the campaign's over. If you really want it right now, you can buy it on the website. And then after this campaign is over, all of our stuff will be up on the TikTok shop. So you'll be able to just go to TikTok,
Oh,
one
that's
click,
awesome.
buy it, and I'll mail it to your house.
You gotta do bundles. Gotta do bundles. You know, you
Yes,
look
we will
at
have.
Dan J. Quick. I always go to him. He's
Dude.
my like golden example of like marketing in the indie
He
space.
is the best. I
Mad
am
bundles. Just create the
such
most
a
bundles you
fan.
could think of.
Yeah, dude. Him and Instinct Comics. I don't know if you follow them.
Instinct.
Sean Barber.
Oh yeah. I always forget.
Dude.
I just know him as Sean.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah, yeah.
why, but
He's
that's
so
because
awesome.
I
He's
featured
such a
him in the
great
magazine.
dude.
Like, yeah, Sean's good people.
They got
Sean's stuff has been here. He was here, but he was like away from the table. So I
Oh,
had an
cool.
opportunity to meet him in person, but I
Oh,
think it was
man.
a C2E2. But he was away from the table, and I was leaving. So I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
No, he's a great dude. And Braden Boyd from Shape Comics is awesome. The guys Evan and Lydia from Bad Ink Studios, I love them. They're the best.
Bad Ink, man. Bad Ink is
The
so
best.
good.
Yeah, we met
So good.
them
Like,
at Comic Fest. That went before he was famous. We were messaging each other back and forth for a while, following each other and stuff. And he was the one who said that we should go to Garden State Comic Fest. And we met up. We made a couple TikToks there. It was really fun, dude. I'm so happy for him. He's such a great dude. He deserves like the whole world and more. And they have a Kickstarter coming up soon. Shape Comics Kickstarter is going on right now. Back them, they're awesome. Bad Ink is going to have their Kickstarter, I believe, in November, December, or whatever. It's coming up in a couple months, he said. I'm excited for them too. I just like, my favorite thing is not that I write comics. My favorite thing is that stack of comics that Sean Barber's Belial is on. Uh, that is all comics of friends of mine.
that's
Josh's
awesome.
comics and Sam's comics and Sean. Like, I didn't write any of those. Those are all my buddies.
That's
Now
what's
I
up.
have friends who make comics, which is like even cooler than making comics yourself.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's why I moved my whole indie section. This whole shelf back here
I love
is
it.
all indie.
I love
Like
it.
I separated that. That's
Nice.
books that I bought from people through Kickstarters or through
So awesome.
online. I picked up a few at a convention this yesterday. So I've got those downstairs. It's like I do an unboxing for that. But like,
More
yeah.
people should be like you.
Hey man, hey, I am the indie hype man. I put my money behind my statements, man.
Dude, the name sticks.
I love it. I love it. It's such a great space, and that's why I've got to you see obviously it's all trades. I collect the trades. I've got to ask you have Luminaries 3 coming out.
Yes.
Is it going to be a 3-issue trade, 4-issue trade?
Yes. So Luminaries, the first.
Because I'm presuming Luminaries is ongoing, right?
It will be our ongoing series. Yes. So the first, book technically is 7 issues. So it will be 4 issues in the first, paperback, 3 issues in the second paperback, and then a compilation of all 7 in a hardcover when it's finished.
No, I gotta wait for that one.
So yeah,
I love
when 4 comes out, you'll be able to get the paperback compilation of 1 through 4. But yeah, and then from there we have book 2 planned, and we'll hopefully get there before I am an old, decrepit, dead man. But we'll see.
But do you have any kind of like schedule for that, like tentative even?
Yeah, so Luminaries 3 will be released in the next couple of months, which means Luminaries 4 is probably 6 to 8 to 12 months away from there. And then we do we try to aim for a 6-month window in between each Luminaries book. Okay. Sometimes it gets longer than that because we get distracted. Josh also, has other clients because we can't pay him enough to be his only client yet. One day we'll get there. More clients but us. But yeah, so he's working on other projects and stuff. we also like we try not to hold ourselves to deadlines because like the fun is in the mystery. Like, you know, like what if we stop doing this and we work on this other thing? That's how Max Axel came out. If I had kept my schedule, I would have only done Luminaries until we were done, and we wouldn't have been able to do all this fun, weird other stuff. And I think we're better for it. So, you know, Luminaries will be done when it's done. If more, you know, if a lot of people buy it, wink, wink, then we'll have a lot of more time to do it. And, you know, if
Definitely.
people are asking for it, obviously that will be more for us to do. But yeah, I mean, it'll come out when it's done. And we're always going to be pushing out something. So expect to see something from us, you know, every couple of months, if that. And as things speed up and we get more artists and, you know, Josh goes into his director role, it'll be a little more production heavy.
Most
Awesome.
definitely.
Yeah.
All right, well let's wrap it up here. Everybody give out your socials. I want to make sure people can find you,
Yes.
get in touch with you.
I'll go first. You can find me on TikTok. That's my main squeeze. That's where I do most of my posting. It is at It's All Really a Lot. Easier to just go to Ezra System. You'll find me there. Look for the hair. If you are looking for us on Instagram, it is at Lucky33 Comics. If you want to find me on Instagram, it is at Humble Thunder X. But I just post pictures of my kids, so you probably don't care. And then Mo.
I just have my Instagram. It's I'm at 16-bit b-boy, but most of my stuff I do comic related would be on the Lucky 33 Instagram, not my personal Instagram. So
Yeah,
just...
if you see Lucky 33 Instagram
But now, see, now
posting,
as a hip hop fan, I have so many questions about 16-bit b-boy.
Oh,
What does that
man.
mean? I have questions.
it's a username I came up with, just combines the things I love, video games and hip hop. I've been playing video games since the Super Nintendo era, so 16-bit,
Nice. I love it.
90s, 80s rap b-boy. So
he's
the
being
16-bit boy.
he's being very humble right now. So we'll have the next time we're on, we'll chat more about Mo and his hip hop.
Oh yeah, and I'm over at on Instagram at JR Comic Arts. I mean that's pretty much Instagram. Twitter is dumpster fire at the moment, so I'm not even gonna worry about it. But Instagram's the way to go.
visit Josh's website because it is fucking awesome. I don't know.
jrcomicart.com. That's literally it.
Yeah, his website is like.
I like that you have it on the wall as a subliminal there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was my wife. It was like a Valentine's Day present. She like printed it out and everything. I was like, that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Just like go there.
Dude, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure,
yeah.
gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
man.
your insights. I have so many things to read. I love the fact that you have digital, so you know you're going to see some transactions here shortly.
Great.
Awesome. Have
Thank
a good
you
one,
so
man.
much. We really
All
appreciate
right, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
And we're just going to do this quick outro here. Thanks again to the Lucky 33 team. That was awesome. It was a great conversation. Make sure you guys check out lucky33comics.com and make sure you guys check out your local comic shop and ask them for a recommendation for their favorite card comic.
Step of reach a little longer like Otto, and yeah, this Sir Rock don't reach for the same bottle. Grotto, all real. I be focused Andrew to the cat like I'm Garfield. This is how the bars feel when they all mint. Yeah, the flow water, but you probably don't want it like Flint, little bitch.